What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Welcome to a Wednesday show. Happy hump day. Joker just hopped up from underneath the desk where he was sound asleep. I think the intro woke him up. Hopefully everybody's having a good day out there, middle of your week, getting through. Hopefully the rest of it is just coast from mid-Wednesday on. Punch in, do nothing, punch out, go to the bar, come home, watch some sports, go to bed, do it all again tomorrow. Do it again the next day, and then it's the weekend, and you can do that the whole time. Not a bad life. Hopefully things went well in DFS last night. Feel like we were all over that slate. The one thing didn't come through. Tyler Soderstrom, the home run pick of the day. I was enthusiastic about it, banging the drum for him yesterday. The Athletics went off for 11 runs in the end? Bunch of homers. Nick Kurtz hit his first major league home run. Could have used that pick. Could have gone with Brent Rooker. Could have gone with Lawrence Butler. I think he hit one. Monster game for the A's. Tyler Soderstrom came away with zero, nada, zilch. Kind of disappointed. Had him in a bunch of lineups. I only built 10. I threw him in. 2 of them were in the top 100. It was a profitable little day, but nothing crazy. Could have been a nicer day if Mr. Soderstrom had come through. Feel like we're on top of most of the pitching. Kind of sucked that Soroka at extreme low ownership was going all right. Give up a couple of runs, but nothing tragic on a home run. Had, I think, 4 strikeouts, but only went 4 innings. Disappointing. We needed that 5th inning. We needed the shot at a win bonus for that to really work out. But a lot of the other stuff we talked about came through. We've got a really interesting slate to pour over today. Interestingly shaped Vegas board. As deep as yesterday's pitching slate was, I think today's is just kind of top heavy and then really ugly. So it's going to be an interesting one to go through. Would you go lie down? Joker, go settle in, buddy. Poor Doug. He's wandering around now. Anyway, nobody cares what Joker's up to. Andy's here. Good afternoon, Andy. Hope your afternoon's going well. Quiet chat so far, but a handful of people piling in. Short notice on the show. I had all the projections done. NBA was up. NHL was up around like 2 o'clock. And I was sitting here saying, I could start at like 3 today, go a little early at 3:15. And in my sitting around just thinking about what time I should start the show, an hour went by and I realized I never scheduled the show. So kind of just threw it up last minute for 3:30. Sorry about that. But hopefully everybody finds it on short notice and catches back up when they need it. Let's get into this one because there is a lot to talk about. We've got 9 games. There were 10 yesterday. Took us a while to get through. 9 today. As mentioned, top-heavy pitching board. When you see Jameson Taillon, regardless of who he's pitching against, in the 5th spot on the board, you know it's pretty ugly. Mitchell Parker against the Braves. Patrick Corbin against anybody. When he's that high on the board, you know it's ugly. It's a lot of down this way. It's also really interesting in Vegas. If you're at a point where you're torn between should I play this team or that team, if one of them is playing at home today, they would be the preference. Look how strongly favored every single one of the home teams is. The lowest implied total for a home team is higher than the highest implied total for an away team today. Highest implied total for an away team today is the Royals at Houston, 4.13 implied runs. The lowest implied total for a home team is 4.46. Also in that game with Houston. So pretty starkly favored on the home team side. Now, obviously, we've got the DFS of it all, and we've got a lot to talk about there too, but it's just really interestingly set up from that perspective. Getting into it a little bit, we do have some weather. Everything should be fine. The most threatened one looks like it's the Washington and Atlanta game, which would be a shame to lose some interesting options on all sides of that game. Seems like Roth thinks it's going to play. As usual, we just kind of defer to the professional weathermen. Everything else seems less threatened. It's just kind of a gray, drizzly, cool day here in the New York area, but the Mets look spectacular. They're actually the top-ranked stack of the day, going up against Bailey Falter. They're leading in the home run model, although if I reran that, they might come down slightly because there's no Juan Soto in the lineup today. Mark Vientos is the home run pick of the day from that Mets lineup, though. He's hitting second today. Really like the upside there. And we expect that one to play. Winds are blowing in that game, so that's like a little bit of a concern there. Definitely more favorable weather for the pitching, but the Mets still pulling a 5+ implied total. The game in Cincinnati also has some rain, but it looks like it's not till late in the evening, so we should be perfectly fine. Apparently, they're honoring Pete Rose in Cincinnati per Roth. 7:14 start time, which is weird. But that one should be fine as long as the rain holds off like the radar looks like. Top of the board, this game went off for offense yesterday. Knew we didn't want any part of those two pitchers. Today we get Ryan Pepio against Chris Bassett. More usable pitchers on the mound. Bassett checking the Rays down to just 3.63 implied runs. He's obviously a roller coaster. Hasn't been bad in any starts, but has given up 4 runs 3 different times this year. He's very gettable for homers. 2 home runs allowed in each of his last 3 starts. Up and down for strikeouts. We've all been there with Chris Bassett. We know we can usually clock in for a shot at a quality start with that pitcher, though. Typically is going to give you 6+ regardless of how things are going, unless it just completely the wheels fall off. Pepio, a little bit more of a mixed bag as far as his ability to check in for 6 innings, but he's done it 5 times already this season. More reliable actually this season for actually hitting exactly 6 than anything else. But he's had a couple clunkers. He had a 6-run game, got a couple really low strikeout games, 4 1/3, gave up just 2 runs on 5 hits to the Yankees, but struck out only 1, walked 2. Came off of that one against the Phillies. We were talking about him last time at fairly low ownership, just 1 earned run on 2 hits. Struck out only 3 and walked 2. Not the best DFS start, but certainly not the worst either, getting the quality start over 6 against a really good Phillies team. So a usable piece at worst, but Toronto, it's always going to be the same thing. They're fairly low strikeout. It's not the best target in the world for a kid who hasn't really had his strikeout stuff in the last 3 starts. Pirates at the Mets. So the Pirates side of that one, very low end. They're going up against Clay Holmes, who has been spectacular for limiting power all season long. He gave up his first home run of the season in his last start, but that was 7 starts without a home run allowed. Strikeouts have come and gone a little bit over time, but he's stretched out a little bit more. He's given us 6 in each of his last 2 outings and 3 of his last 4 outings. And he's pitching really, really well against a low-end Pirates lineup. So love the upside for Clay Holmes. Still like the upside for the Mets bats. As mentioned, they're one of the top-ranked teams regardless of what the weather looks like. The Bailey Falter's just kind of a no on the mound. The White Sox have Davis Martin going against the Reds. They're pulling a 5+ implied total on their side of that one. Again, every home team, monstrous favorites. Davis Martin, easy to attack with Reds bats. Vulnerable to runs, vulnerable to contact, doesn't find a lot of strikeouts, even in good starts. So like the upside for some Reds there. The White Sox side of that going up against Nick Lodolo. I think we're going to lean Lodolo, even with his up and down performances throughout the season. 6 earned runs 2 starts ago. Last time out, just 2 earned runs on 5 hits against the Braves at Atlanta. Struck out 7. Didn't allow the key home run we were hunting for against him in that start. But a 9-run total there, 4.09. That's the next one down. 3.54 in an 8.5-run game for the White Sox. So obviously an easy target for Lodolo. A 9-run game between the Nats and the Braves. This is an interesting one. So if we get this game, this is again threatened by weather, but a 4.09 total for the Nationals, one of the only real bright spots for an away team. They're facing Bryce Elder, an easily vulnerable pitcher. He's been all right over a few starts. Last time out, struck out 8, but gave up 2 home runs, 3 earned on 5 hits over 6 to the Pirates. Nationals, a bit better of a lineup than the Pirates. I think that total's somewhat encouraging. If they come in a little lower owned than they maybe ought to be because of a lower total than a lot of the home teams or all of the home teams, I think that could make the Nats a little bit interesting there, assuming that game plays. On the mound for Washington, it's Mitchell Parker facing the Braves. There's the obvious up and downside of facing the Braves. They're pulling in a 5+ total. Big favorites in a 9-run game. They've got all that power. Parker has not been bad. He's allowed 1 home run in his 8 starts so far this season. So, I mean, if that's an attribute that we call out for Clay Holmes, I got to at least mention it here. But more history for Clay Holmes being a really good at limiting power. Parker's been a little up and down, 4 earned runs in his last game, 5 in the one before that, 6 in the one before that, but was very solid over his first 5 starts. Gave us more depth over his first 5 starts. Went 8 innings against Baltimore back on April 22nd, and that was the start of the collapse. The next 3 starts haven't been good and haven't been as deep as the previous ones. 5 innings, 4 innings in each of the last 2. But in his first 4 starts, he went 6 plus, and then went 8 in that one. So the depth is somewhere in between. The quality is somewhere in between. Hopefully he's not pitching hurt from just going a little bit deep into that game. Speaking of pitching hurt, turned out Bryce Miller ended up on the IL. Elbow and back soreness. Hopefully it's nothing tragic, but definitely we were talking about him. Definitely seemed like something was up. And something was. The Marlins and the Cubs. The return of Ryan Weathers to the mound. Probably not going there. Cubbies pulling a 4.48 implied total against on the other side of that one. I do like Weathers going forward. We're going to talk about him at some point, but I think we're probably not getting enough depth here. He did go 5, but he only faced 17 batters in his last rehab start. That was in AAA. Struck out 3. He allowed 2 hits, but it was only 17 hitters. Kind of breezed through that game and that performance. So I don't think we're getting a lot of depth. We might get 5. I gave him 5. But it's also the Cubs on the other side, so it's not an ideal opponent to target with a pitcher who should be good. There's a lot of buzz about Ryan Weathers. He had a dominant spring training at a 0.79 spring ERA. He's been throwing 99, 100 in his return to the mound. So really interesting starter. I just don't think today's necessarily the day against that deadly good Cubs lineup. They're pulling a healthy total. They're pulling solid projections against. Doesn't seem right. 7.5 run total in that game. The Cubs have Jameson Taillon, as mentioned, on the mound. He is just pulling the bump from facing the low-end Marlins, 3.11 implied total against. It's difficult to argue with, but we know this is not a high-quality pitcher. He's like a C-, Chris Farley D+ kind of a pitcher. It's very dicey. I don't know that it's dicey enough that we're necessarily going to target a lot of Marlins, but we might talk about a couple one-offs from that lineup or a couple secondary stacks. Rockies and the Rangers. The Rockies are drawing interesting value numbers. They're facing one of our favorite targets from over the years, Patrick Corbin. Corbin's been pitching okay this season. He's only allowed a couple of home runs. He's not really pitching to upside, but he's not been tragic either. The Rockies, obviously a very shaky lineup to target anybody with, but if there's anybody I do want to use them against at very affordable value prices, Patrick Corbin would at least be on that list. The much more appealing side of that one, though, the more glaringly obvious, the 5.40 implied total that the Rangers are pulling against Antonio Senzatella, a super vulnerable pitcher. 4 earned runs in each of his last 3 starts and 4 of his last 5 starts. Allowed 8 runs on 9 hits over 4 2/3 against the Padres last time out. Only 4 of them earned, but struck out 2, walked 2. He's allowed 4 home runs in his last 3 starts, none in the last one. 3 starts back and 1 in the middle. Very, very gettable pitcher. Rangers have been popular this week. Royals and the Astros an 8.5 total. Both teams pulling mid-4s. Definitely one of the more appealing away teams in Kansas City. They're going up against a rookie Colton Gordon, who is making his first MLB start at age 26. Targetable spot. I definitely think the Royals will be as in play as they typically are. On the Astros side, they're going up against Michael Lorenzen, who's been pitching not badly. Last time out against Boston, 7 innings of 3-hit baseball, no runs, 7 strikeouts. Very solid effort there. Has had a few good games and really one bumpy one. It was 2 starts back against the Orioles. 5 earned runs on 7 hits over 4 2/3, struck out 5, walked 1, and gave up 4 home runs. Kind of glaring. But other than that, he's been pretty decent. So playable spot there at worst for on the mound, but the Astros as in play as usual in the mid-4s. The Angels and the Padres. Pods pulling a monster total. They're going up against Kyle Hendricks. That's an obvious spot. Angels against Randy Vasquez. Maybe some playability, but you're just kind of home run hunting there. So short stacks, maybe around just some of the key players. The Athletics not looking nearly as appealing as they did last night. 3.23 implied total doesn't seem like even a spot where we're like hunting for secret opportunities and low ownership. It's just a stay away spot against Yoshi Yamamoto. Pretty deadly good pitcher on the mound. 3.23 implied total for them. And then on his side, 5.4 implied total for the Dodgers, going up against the rookie Gunnar Hoglund in his 3rd start. 6 innings in his first one, struck out 7, was very good. 5 1/3 in his second one, 2 earned runs on 5 hits, struck out 3, walked 1. Mediocre against Seattle, but an upside young pitcher, just not his day against the Dodgers. And we can see that all again right here. Carlos Soto's here. King of all trades is here. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. You can call me Terreri if you want to, Carlos. I probably end up mush-mouthing names like that just as often. Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you. So Yoshi Yamamoto kind of on another level up at the top of the board, offset by several points, but obviously offset by a lot of money on this shallow pitching slate. As mentioned, Clay Holmes, love the option at 92,900. I think it's a very fair price for him against this Pirates lineup, especially if there's no O'Neal Cruz in it. Definitely an upside spot for Clay Holmes to keep them off the board for scoring. Again, the conditions in New York should favor pitching a little bit. I'm still seeing the upside for the Mets bats, but I love their pitcher. I like the idea of stacking him with those bats. Definitely an interesting approach to today, which reminds me, I don't think I put a placeholder lineup in. I'll do that while I'm talking. Lodolo, again, obvious bump just from facing the White Sox, as any pitcher is going to get in this spot. But he's talented enough that he could have an upside start and give us a little bit of ceiling here, too. There are strikeouts there. He could go find them. A little bit of vulnerability maybe to the big righties in that lineup, but not that much. Nothing that we're overly concerned about. Lodolo good enough to go to, even at a fairly high price for him at $9,700 on FanDuel. $87 on DraftKings. Much, much more appealing for a Nick Lodolo type pitcher. Chris Bassett, it's the same thing I was saying before when we were talking through the Vegas totals. It's just the Chris Bassett of it. We've all been there before. We know there's good depth. We know there's ability. We know that he can find some Ks against that Rays lineup, but we also know there's power on the other side, and he's a vulnerable pitcher to those kinds of things and somewhat mistake prone. And when he gets blown up, it hasn't happened much this year, but we've seen him get blown up enough times. I think we've all been down that road. Get those in there. Taillon, I have very little faith in, but it's a terrific matchup. He's getting the big bump there. I do not like the idea of paying $9,000 for him on FanDuel. I would much rather have any of the guys above him and maybe a couple of the guys below him, but it's a spectacular matchup in which he could easily succeed. And we've seen him be, again, I call him a C- D+, and that's probably what he is now, but we've seen him be a C+, B- pitcher over time. He could find that form for a start here against the Marlins easily enough. Pepiot, there is upside there, but it's a challenging spot against that low strikeout Blue Jays lineup. You can see kind of the artificial cut line there with a 5-point separation between him and where Taillon is. And then everybody else, there's that little plateau of Pepiot, Parker, Corbin, and Lorenzen. Think what you will of some of those guys. And we'll throw Elder into that mix as well. And you can see it all in that yellow-orange price tier with mid to low 20s projections. And that is kind of your cut line. It's very bad after that. Again, I do like Weathers. I guess the question on Weathers, once we dip down below here, and Elder, honestly, I really don't like at 84. At 75, that's more playable on DK because you got these guys in the 8s. It's more comparable like Pepiot, Parker, and it's obviously a playable matchup against the Nats. But I think I'm going to be more invested in that Nationals side when we get to that game. I don't know how playable this is going to look. We'll give the kid a look, but it's going to be a low projection, probably low innings against a very low strikeout, very talented hit tool Kansas City team. I don't like the idea of that. Not a lot of upside there. Very cheap. It's a dart you can obviously use, and it's a low-end opponent, but high danger spot. This is the interesting one on DK. At 75, I don't think you can use Weathers on FanDuel, because he's not going 6 here. And again, I don't like him to use him today in his first start of the season when we're probably short on innings and pitches up against a very good Cubs lineup that can see some pitches, that can sequence and just kind of wait it out and then get into that terrible bullpen. But at 57, if you're going to throw a few darts at just a really cheap pitcher and just hope for a little bit of point scoring and get me to 10, 12, 15. 15 would obviously be really beneficial. But get me to 10, 12 points. You might have enough there. You want the 5 innings, a shot at the win bonus, obviously, which is super shaky. But on the strikeout stuff, if Weathers is on form, he might be able to find just enough to squeeze it out at 5,700 on DraftKings. Barely. But I really have very little faith in it. It's probably going to look more like Soroka last night with 4 innings, something like that. Bailey Falter's a pretty hard proposition for me against the Mets, and then Davis Martin, Gunnar against the Dodgers. Hendricks and Sensatella have never been in play. Really, really low end. Let's see if we got any new lineups in the last little bit. The Twins and the Orioles. Neither of those teams is on this slate, right? Yeah. No new lineups for this slate. A lot of weather, by the way, in that early slate as well. If you're thinking about playing, I forget what time that started. It might already have kicked off, actually. But just be aware that there's a ton of weather around in the day games as well. Looks like FanDuel starts up started up 10 minutes ago. All right, 4:10 game out in Seattle. So I guess that was mostly the earlier games. So we're okay. DraftKings ran a 5-gamer with some of those first games of doubleheaders, but that started earlier. Anyway, getting in, Rays at a 3.63 implied total against Bassett. Blue Jays pulling 4.47, showing a little bit of upside against Pepio. You've got the obvious guys up at the top of the Blue Jays lineup. As we've been talking about throughout the season, it's somewhat top heavy here. But in this configuration, giving you Alejandro Kirk in the 6th spot with a little bit of pop in that bat for a cheap catcher at 3,426 on FanDuel with moderate playability. And then into Addison Barger. It's not a bad 6-7 there. Barger's got a little upside for power as well. He's got a 13% barrel and 50% hard hits so far over 63 plate appearances, fewer batted ball events. Lefty bat, cheap in the outfield. Not a great option at third base, but a little bit of playability there. A little bit of playability there. Probably better on DraftKings to help just average down the top-heavy part. The fact that you can bolt Bo Bichette onto that for just $3,500 on DraftKings, 28 on FanDuel is also very cheap, but that's really appealing for stacking Blue Jays against Ryan Pepio here if you're looking to do that. Pepio's a talented young pitcher. It's not a great spot. It's a spot where honestly I feel like that total's a little bit high. He's pitched to a 3.86 ERA and a 4.34 xFIP, so technically it's a little bit below. It's right a little bit above the xFIP number that he's put up. So it feels a little bit high, but it's not that inappropriate. I feel like 4.15, something in that territory would be a little bit more just between the 3.86 and the 4.34. $78 on DraftKings feels really playable. 82 on FanDuel. I think you can get into the mix with Pepio. Again, he was at the top of that middle plateau on the board there. But it probably does lean Blue Jays bats, even if this is a third of a run too high or so. With Bo Bichette up at the top, as I was saying, 3,500, the ability to just drop that into here or use these guys from down here to help average down some pricing. It does give you a lot of purchasing power, which is probably the best upside piece of this Blue Jays, of considering stacking the Blue Jays today. And I think it does play better on DraftKings than it does on FanDuel. Just because of the 5-man versus the 4-man, there's more power in the average down. So if you went like the 3 obvious guys up top, and yes, Santander is still included in that, even with his struggles, you want that power upside if you're going here. Then you have the question of Varsho, Springer, and you have the question of which are the cheaper guys down bottom if you want another spot to go down, to average down. Let's say we did leave Santander out. We're a Bichette, Vladdy, Springer, who's playing well and is only 300 more. We'll include Varsho, so we'll take both of those guys in lieu of Santander. And then instead of taking Barger at third or taking a third outfielder with Barger, let's just grab the catcher. So I'm at a $4,040 average, so essentially 41 a piece. And I'm getting Bichette, I'm getting Vladdy, Springer, Varsho's power against a righty who's vulnerable to power. It's not a bad stack to consider. Vladdy's obviously the prize, 13.8% barrels, 51.2% hard hits. It's weirdly only turned into 4 home runs, a 129 ISO, a lot of misfortune in there, given the absurdly good barrel rates that align with his numbers from last year when he was fantastic. We saw some weird pockets of low production from him last year as well, and it all eventually rounded into form. The 387 xWOBA tells us that that's exactly what's going to happen again this year. Strikeouts are a little bit up, but so are walks. Shouldn't be problematic at all. It's obviously a superstar. 4,800, he should never be below 5,000. 3,200 should never probably be below 35 on FanDuel. 11.42 in the home run model against a kid who's pitched to a 4.28% home run rate so far this year, allowing 9.8% barrels. 40.9, that's over the mark. That's over the mark. This is just under. We're looking for 10 there, but this is just as vulnerable. Last year, that was 315, but on somewhat similar premium contact in terms of the barrels. When he's going poorly, he's making mistakes. He's losing home runs. 107.93, though. You can see how good he is by Stuff Plus. Strikeouts down a little bit at 20%. Last year, that was 26.3. Swinging strikes were at 12.9. The CSW was much, much better overall. The walk rate is about the same. So we're just losing some swinging strikes. We're losing some called strikes. Overall, that's knocked the strikeout rate down somewhat, but he can find form. It's just a challenging spot to do it against the low strikeout team. So that's why Pepio solidly in the middle. Bassett again projects out better against the Rays, where there are more strikeouts available, 23.2% for this collection of hitters so far this year. Same group of hitters with some obviously skewed numbers there was at 29.9. If we take out that big one, it's 24.6. So there are plenty of Ks for Bassett, but in no way is Chris Bassett safe. If we're going to the Rays side, if we're considering some of those bats, I do like Chandler Simpson out of that leadoff spot. The hit tool, again, should come around. I was talking about it a little bit yesterday. He's at 269, 301, 321. We need to continue to push that on base up. Needs to draw more walks. He's at just 4.8% walks. He's going to be low strikeout in an ongoing sense. We'll see where the walks end up. Hard hits are going to be negligible. Barrels, we'll see if he barrels one ball all season. But we're here for on base. We're here for stolen bases. We're here for runs with this player. So far, it's been a mixed bag. 12 runs scored, 7 stolen bases is not bad for only getting on base at a 301 clip. That's why he needs to push those walks up. Needs a little bit more luck with BABIP as well. That all should come around. Everything about this player in the minors says that he has a very, very good hit tool. Brendan Lau, tons of power upside, 8.36 in the home run model for just 3,300 at second base, 27 on FanDuel. Not a bad option. He's hit 5 so far this year. 323 xWOBA tells us that things will round into form in the slash line, which is good because what he's done over 153 plate appearances has been pretty atrocious. 10.1% barrels and 43.4% hard hits if you need something to cling to. Junior Caminero, 9.9% barrels, 50.4% hard hits, 8 home runs on the board, a 200 ISO, 318 xWOBA with a 103 WRC+. Kid's just good. Low strikeout at 20%, fairly low walk, so you're just buying a lot of high-caliber bat on ball. Jonathan Aranda continues to mash, 6 home runs on the board now, 339, 428, 568 over 138 plate appearances. He's been their best bat. 421 xWOBA with a 187 WRC+, 13.6% barrels, 58% hard hits. This is becoming less of just chasing the good contact and more like legitimately, potentially really, really good. Cameron Misner, mix and match quality lefty. 3 home runs, 3 steals. He's put a lot of runs on the board, 108 WRC+. The 277 xWOBA kind of betrays even the mid kind of slash line that he's put up. Doesn't make a lot of great contact, strikes out too much, doesn't really walk, doesn't really get on base enough truly. But there's been some counting stat upside there. If he's in the lineup, you can obviously throw the lefty at Chris Bassett as part of a stack. Not that appealing as a one-off, especially when you've got a cheaper Brendan Lau if you're just determined to one-off somebody from this team. Jose Caballero, Taylor Walls, Travis Jankowski, a lot of hit tool and on base and stolen base. I use the word base too many times to stay based right now, but focused opportunity for scoring there. But that's about it with those players. So they kind of live and die by their BABIP and their stolen base opportunities, the opportunities to create and score some runs. Taylor Walls is on the board a little bit in that spot, but just a 293 on base is hurting him. 5 steals, 14 runs scored over 116 plate appearances. You get a little bit of DFS upside, but it's all correlated scoring based. So like I said with the Dodgers yesterday, if you are fishing down here with these guys, and I'll include Ben Rortvedt in that, he's not much of a bat in any sense, but he's at least the dead min, so it's just kind of a free square apple box type thing at catcher. But if you're going down this way, use one of these guys in conjunction with like all of the top four or one or three of the top four in Cameron Misner, depending on what you get in this lineup, obviously. There's not a lot to talk about down there. It's the same deal with these two guys at the bottom of the Blue Jays lineup. Ernie Clement has not been bad at 275, 302, 367, but there's also not a lot of there. 280 xWOBA and 89 WRC plus, even when he has hit the ball a little bit. Not a lot of power, low strikeout, low walk, so you get frequency of contact. That's really all you're buying. If you do it at second base. Jonathan Klaas, limited over 16 plate appearances, 66 pretty empty plate appearances last year. Not much to see there. Another just cheap outfielder. So on the Blue Jays, you're just focused, again, mixing those guys and then whatever you get to of these two guys to help average down even further with the pricing. Varsho hasn't been bad. Very, very good for contact in a small sample over 41 plate appearances. He's already hit 5 home runs. Kind of a Sean Murphy-esque return to the lineup with a bunch of mashing over a short stretch. We'll see him cool. That power pace won't keep up, but he is a good power bat from the left side. Springer, we'll see what we end up at. 289, 404, 504 this year, 215 ISO, a 391 xWOBA says that there is more upside in there, making phenomenal contact this year. Really come back to life. So very interested in that bat. This goes Blue Jays bats, Chris Bassett, Ryan Pepio, then the Rays bats, but it's really probably like the top 4 in the Rays lineup, then Ryan Pepio, then the rest of the Rays lineup. Very close on that side. Gonna have a lot of that today with all these underdog home teams. Or road teams, rather. Pirates not in. Mets is in. So again, a little bit of weather in this game. Little bit of threat from that. Just want to see if we have any. Still no Cruz news. Come on. So Anil Cruz is day-to-day still. He's got a back thing. That's obviously a major detriment to this lineup. If you get this version of the lineup with Adam Frazier and IKF up top and Brian Reynolds and Andrew McCutchen relegated to 3-4 with no support above them, it's really, really ugly. Either Adam Frazier or IKF, if you're determined to stack Pirates, could get on base, could get involved a little bit. Between the two, I greatly prefer Adam Frazier. But so far this season, IKF has actually put up a little bit better in terms of numbers, 275, 325, 349. But you can see it in the xWOBA, the WRC+. Both guys significantly sub 300 xWOBAs, 0.085, 0.073 ISOs, 74 and 89 WRC+, over 131 and 118 plate appearances. It's just not great bats up top. Brian Reynolds is good and is very cheap. He's underperformed his talent so far. 198, 259, 314. But a very solid 10.8% barrels, 45.8% hard hits, 342 xWOBA. But he would be the absolute priority in this version of the lineup. If O'Neal Cruz does play, he's the second priority. O'Neal Cruz is the top priority. Andrew McCutchen slides in next to those two, 4,000, 2,700. He's very cheap. He's down to 252, 348, 387 after a hot start, but he's still hitting the ball solidly. 367 xWOBA with a 106 WRC plus, a 12% barrel rate. It's a lot of good contact there. Still very capable of drawing walks. Doesn't strike out a lot. A lot of his teammates strike out quite a bit more, though. This projected version of the lineup has a 27% strikeout rate this season. There are some small samples pushing that up a little bit with a 44-1 and a 50% down lineup. You can see some heavy strikeout numbers through some of those bats. So there's K's here for Clay Holmes to go get. The bottom of the lineup, Joey Bart is an interesting option, again, if you're determined to stack Pirates. But if we're taking the home run, the power upside away from Joey Bart, then we're just talking about, some on-base skills, some correlated scoring, if that happens to come through in a weak lineup against a talented pitcher. Don't love the upside there. He's hit just one home run this season, but he's got a 10.4% barrel, 45.5% hard hits, carrying a 363 xWOBA. We should see some more power come through in the long term. Just probably not a great day to do it today. You can see how relegated everybody is in that power index because Clay Holmes just does not allow home runs. Again, the first one of the season came last start in his eighth start of the year. Ke'Bryan Hayes is just a contact-focused hitter. BABIP results. Matt Gorski, Ji-Hwan Bae, and Tommy Pham down lineup. Tommy Pham might move up, hit higher up with this version of the lineup, but he's been bad. 122 terrible plate appearances this year. He was completely shot last year. We probably saw the last of Tommy Pham back in 2023. Bailey Falter, a lot of the negative things I said about his teammates kind of apply on the mound as well. 6,800, 7,300, not that appealing with a 17.9% strikeout, allowing 3.47% home runs so far this year on a significant launch angle. Lots of hard hit, close enough to 90 miles an hour of exit velo for my money. A substandard mark by Stuff Plus, 4.36 ERA with a 4.55 xFIP, allowing 8.6% barrels. Last year, those contact numbers were very, very similar. Just 2.89% home runs. Got a little bit lucky there, but a 4.43 ERA with a 4.71 xFIP underneath it. Didn't strike anybody out that year either. Year before, on again, very similar contact numbers, 4.90% home runs. That's the more correct number. That's the kind of results you should expect to see, or maybe somewhere in the middle, but certainly above 4. So very vulnerable pitcher. Even with no Soto in the Mets lineup, there's still tons and tons of upside. You can see 3 hitters up at the top, all above the magic number, including today's home run pick of the day in Mark Vientos, who is way too cheap at 35 on DraftKings, 31 on FanDuel. You've obviously got the big right-handed masher in Pete Alonso. He doesn't look like he's going to be super popular in this game. Again, the wind's blowing in. There's some weather working against some of the bats. I get it, but the Mets are pulling a 5+ implied total. They are showing the power. He's hit 9 home runs this year. He's got a 278 ISO. 18% barrels, 58.2% hard hits against the high contact, bad for him, good for the hitters, contact pitcher. Love the upside for Alonso. Francisco Lindor, 10.29 in the home run model. He's making great contact. He's hit 9 home runs. He's also slashing 302, 366, 500. 198 ISO at 374 xWOBA, 146 WRC plus. One of the best ways to fill shortstop at 5,400, 4,000 today. Particularly on DraftKings, by the way. That's still a cheap price. Lindor's a $5,800, $6,000 talent. 4,000 on FanDuel usually jibes with like a 6,000 on DraftKings. So he's a little bit cheap. I know it's not in a vacuum cheap, but for him and against this pitcher, that's a pretty affordable Francisco Lindor. And even as a 3-man with Vientos right there at 35, you're averaging that down to under 5,000 apiece. It's 4,900 apiece for those 3 hitters. Straightforward enough. Both corners and shortstop, and you move on, grab a cheapo second baseman, load up with a team with 3 outfielders. Maybe you do go 3 outfielders from the Blue Jays and stack them with the Mets. Although you don't really want to do that because Vladdy and Pete have a positional conflict. So do Bo and Francisco Lindor, so scratch that idea. But you get me. Love that top 3 for the Mets today. Brendan Nimmo is a bolt-on for 42. Not a bad option. We can easily extend for Nimmo and some of those bats from down lineup. Nimmo at 42 brings us down to 47.25 apiece. He's got an 11.8% barrel rate, 55.1% hard hits, striking out just 17.5%. Drawing a few walks, but uncharacteristically low for him. So that should, when that returns, help push the on base back up above 300 at least. I don't know that we're ever getting back to the days of even 328 from last year, but certainly 363 from 2 years ago with a 274, 363, 466 line. Probably gone. We'll see. But I would expect better than a 287 at an Nimmo. 353 xWOBA tells part of that story. A 206 ISO. He's hit 8 home runs. Big lefty bat, even against a lefty. I have no issues with it. Let's see what we're doing lefty-lefty this year, though. Yeah, we're fine again, lefty-lefty. Again, same-handed pitching this year, 294, 324, 588 with a 294 ISO, a 152 WRC plus. He underperformed pretty dramatically against right-handed pitching. For the career, it's 266, 356, 413 with a 147 ISO against same-handed pitching. Against righties, 257, 372, 449 with a 192 ISO, 131 WRC plus against righties, 118 against same-handed. So perfectly fine against the lefty, especially a high-contact bad lefty like Bailey Falter. Starling Marte, worst-case scenario, a mix-and-match piece for cheap. 3,200, 2,600. He's got 3 stolen bases, getting on at just a 308 clip with the 328 XWOB. It tells us we should see an uptick in the long term for Marte. 2 home runs, 197, 308, 318 is obviously not appealing, but there is upside there. A little bit of oddball power, should finish around, well, with this slow start, maybe 14 home runs, 13 to 15, let's say. But capable, should steal around 15 bases going forward. Luis Torrens, making good contact so far this year. I'll give him that much. Made some good contact last year in, I forget what the sample size was, 127 plate appearances, but it only turned into a 148 ISO, 3 home runs in that opportunity. No opportunity really the year before. Back in 22, he had 166 chances. He hit 3 home runs again, just a .7073 ISO. So hopefully you enjoyed this premium contact when you got it. And same thing with like these numbers from last year. We're not staying anywhere near this territory. It's been 80 good plate appearances. You don't want to take it away from him. 178 ISO, probably coming down. The 417 xWOBA, though, is lingering there, saying like, no, maybe we do want to go to this hitter. If you're playing Mets, if you want to go to the catcher as your 5th bat, I don't mind it. It's playable enough against Bailey Falter. Righty bat who's shown a little bit of pop this season. I really question the long-term upside, but for today, plenty there. Tyrone Taylor, same deal. As we've said many times already about Tyrone Taylor, typically I'm looking for him against a bad lefty. Here's that opportunity. Up to hitting 7th today. 232, 283, 348, a 304 xWOBA, 81 WRC plus. Again, bad numbers so far this year, but give him a shot here against this bad lefty. Let him put good bat on ball from the right side. I like the upside at 3,025. Should be low owned, should be fairly sneaky, even among Mets stacks. 6.16 in the home run model. Luis Angel, 37.25, having a good year, or a good start anyway. 279, 333, 337. He's stolen 10 bags. 285 xWOB is a little underwhelming. 95 WRC plus obviously has a ways to go. Hasn't hit for any kind of power yet to barrel a ball. But as far as getting on, not bad. Stealing bases, creating some opportunities for run scoring. Hasn't really fully come through via WRC plus. But there's quality there for a sub 4,000 price. Pop him at second base is an easy option. And then Jose Azocar's in the lineup today. 294, 333, 294. Over 18 plate appearances. Last year, over 79 plate appearances. It was a completely opposite story. Year before, over 102. Same bad story. Over 216 back in 2022. He had kind of a similar stretch to what he's done so far this year. There's very little faith in just kind of a defensive replacement type player, but he's cheap in the outfield. If you're building 30 Met stacks, you have him in a couple. Obviously, the priorities are there. But again, this and then like that and Torrens gives you 4,400 apiece, and you're getting Lindor, Vientos, and Alonso in there. If you go to Tyrone Taylor, 4,380, so $4,400 a piece for these 3 bats against that pitcher. A lot of purchasing power. Like the upside for the Mets. And then I buried the lead with Clay Holmes. He's the best piece of this. 9,000, 9,200 against this terrible Pirates lineup that's this projected lineup. Again, 27% strikeouts. Holmes over 8 starts, 24.7% Ks. He's walked a few too many with that 9% rate, 1.24 whip, but he's pitched very well. 2.74 ERA, a 3.41 xFIP. Doesn't betray it all that much. Last time out, 6 innings, 1 earned run on 3 hits, struck out 5, walked 3 against the Cubbies. Start before that against the Cards, 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, struck out just 3, walked 0. 2 strikeout game, the one before that against the Nats, but shut them out over 5, gave up just 4 hits. Had better strikeout outings for a few before that, 6, 8, 10 strikeout game back against Miami. You kind of discount that one. But there's plenty of upside for K's in this lineup, so it could be that kind of a day again. 8.9% swinging needs to come up a little bit, but a good strike thrower at 28.3. And again, spectacular keeping the ball down, 5.8 degree average launch, giving up 1 home run for a 0.56% rate, just 5.2% barrels this year. Last year, similar, 0.3 degree average launch, 1.48% home runs over 63 innings in relief. Year before that, numbers were very, very similar over 63 innings of relief work, 0.76 home run. So he is a very strong upside option. He's added a couple pitches in his conversion to a starter. Love it today against the Pirates. Fire away with Clay Holmes. Shares one of the top priorities on the pitching board. Clay Holmes, especially given this configuration of the Mets, I'll knock them down slightly. Clay Holmes, Mets bats, and then really nothing from the Pirate side. It's pretty limited over there. Synthetic is here. What's going on, buddy? Lone Wolf's deep in the money on the day slate. Love it. Go get him, buddy. Tampa Bay came out. Anything funky? Simpson, Lau, Gaminetto, Aranda, Chris Morel in the lineup. I like the upside for Chris Morel. That is a very playable piece. Let me grab that real quick. Morel's on our short list of the guys with that high quality swing. He is the probably most volatile one in that bunch because when he doesn't connect and doesn't hit home runs or drive the ball for significant scoring events, he's usually swinging and missing and pretty bad and putting zeros in your lineup. 38.8% strikeouts to illustrate that point so far this year, slashing 223, 310, 369, but a 339 xWOBA illustrates the upside of that swing, as does the contact in his batted ball events. 19% barrels, 46.6% hard hits. That is who Christopher Morel is. He's going to give you zeros on a lot of days, but against a pitcher like Chris Bassett, there is vulnerability there. There is vulnerability to power. He's an okay strikeout pitcher who can induce swinging strikes, so he'll probably get Morel twice, and then Morel might get him once going back the other way. 6.95 in the home run model at 3 positions for 2,600. Love the option at second base when I'm stacking Rays, but I do have the positional conflict with Brandon Lau. Typically, I end up putting Morel in the outfield with Lau at second base and leaving Util open, but it adds flexibility with a high quality bat to that Rays lineup. It extends this lineup a little bit. I like it better than Misner hitting 5. And then you get Misner, Caballero, Jankowski, and Danny Jansen. Jansen, a mix and match catcher with a little bit of oddball power upside from time to time. Just 2 home runs on the season, a 314 xWOBA hiding underneath the 0.095 ISO. He's playable, but not high quality. And then we talked about Jankowski and Caballero here. You just want one of those two guys if you're stacking this team at most. But the Morel is a good addition to that lineup. Come on. Where were we? Here. All right. We do not want much from the White Sox, but you have to at least mention, as somebody did in chat, that there are some pesky hitters like Chase Meadroth in this lineup that could maybe give Lodolo some fits. Lodolo hasn't really walked anybody, but he hasn't really been striking many hitters out. 9.8% swinging, 25.2% CSW, just a 19.3% strikeout rate. With a patient guy like Meadroth, I could see him waiting out a walk or two, or I could see him just waiting out an opportunity to put the ball in play. He doesn't drive the baseball, but a few singles for a guy like Meadroth, get on base and create some opportunities, even if it becomes like, him getting on, and then several spots later, he's on second base, Lubob doubles, and we get a run scored, and they make that happen once, and then get another oddball solo shot or a 2-run homer later in the game. That bends scoring, even if it's 3 runs, even if it's 4 runs against Nick Lodolo at these prices. 87.97 is not all that comfortable. He's had 2 good strikeout games, 7 Ks the last time out against Atlanta. Just 2 earned runs on 5 hits. Not bad in that start. Didn't give up a homer. 9 strikeouts. That was against Colorado, but it was at Coors Field, notably. 2 hits, no runs. Excellent start there at Coors. Shakier for Ks the rest of the way. Is capable of giving us 6+ against this bad White Sox lineup. Nick Lodolo, don't get me wrong, very, very firmly on the pitching board. I just don't love the upside, the true ceiling at this price, even against this team. There are plenty of Ks to go find down lineup. That should support the upside there. But I'll take, I won't, but if I was stacking White Sox, I would take a few shots with Michael A. 3,300 against a gettable lefty. I don't mind that. Lodolo's given up nearly 90 miles an hour of exit velo, 39% hard hits on a 7.5% barrel, 11.4 degree average launch. Hasn't burnt him for power. Last year, it was similar. 2.64% rate on slightly fewer hard hits, but similar exit velo, similar launch and barrels. Year before, that was a 6.02 in a small sample with more significant contact. But there's downside in Nick Lodolo. You can see some of it coming through in Luis Rivera at 8.48 in the home run model. He's been awful so far this season. But there's power there. He's stealing a lot of bases. If he was getting on at more than a 284 clip, he'd be looking actually okay. You can see everybody in this lineup outside of Edgar Quero at 124 is a significantly below average run creator. Even with his 124 in there, the average WRC plus for the entire 9-man lineup is currently 73, aka 27 percentage points below average for run creation, man for man in this lineup. If you took Kettle out, the average is 66. This is a terrible baseball team. They were historically bad last year. They might be worse this year. But there are some pesky bats, as somebody pointed out. A little bit of hit tool, little bit of on-base skill out of Meadroth. That's all you really get, though. He does need that help from his friends to provide any true upside for fantasy scoring. He just can draw walks, doesn't really strike out. You could say the same about Miguel Vargas so far this year in 159 plate appearances, 18.9% strikeouts, 10.7% walks. Not bad. You could say the same thing about Keto, who, again, over 77 has probably been their best player. 14.3% strikeouts, 11.7% walks. You're throwing this at Lodolo, it could get ugly in terms of just their ability to run that pitch count up. Even just that could work against those prices with Lodolo. Then you get to Lubob, who strikes out way too much at 30.6 this year. Technically, that's down 3 points from last year. The true version of him is around this 28, 29% number, slightly lower than what we're getting this year. The contact is still good, but for him, it's not great. It was better than last year, but it's not like 2 years ago. 8.48 could easily be above 10 if he was going right in the home run model. He's just gotten cheap, though. 4,300, 3,000 as a one-off. I don't hate it. He has hit 5 home runs. He's stolen 16 bases. The 326 xWOBA tells us that some normalization should be coming in the slash line. You're just home run and stolen base and counting stat hunting right now even with Lubob. Andrew Vaughn is super cheap. Given the 15.3% barrel and 50% hard hit for just 2,400, there's at least a little bit of appeal there. He's hit 5 home runs at 325 xWOBA. Again, should normalize some of the slash line. 6.36 in the home run model. It's just difficult to have any kind of faith in Andrew Vaughn because we've seen this for so long that this might just be who he is. Despite making good contact, he's just not lucky. I don't know. It sometimes defies explanation outside of just what we see on the field. Lennon Sosa, mix and match quality at best, but 266, 286, 350, one of the better slash lines on this team so far, over 148 plate appearances. We know there's not a ton of upside there, but could be around mid to 6.1, 7.8% barrels the last 2 seasons. He's in that territory again, around 40% hard hits. That's a playable piece if you're going to this team. He's not the reason you go to the White Sox. Tim Elko at first base, you probably prefer Andrew Vaughn. 14.3% barrels and a home run over 10 plate appearances, a few batted ball events. Brooks Baldwin, mix and match quality. He has at 3 home runs and stolen 2 bags. And then our guy, Michael A. down lineup. Hasn't been good this year, but has given us many surprise, low-owned, cheap home runs over the years. It's much more about the Reds' bats against Davis Martin here. It's much more about Lodolo against the White Sox. 5+ implied total for the Reds against Martin. He's pitched to a 4.01 ERA with a 4.45 xFIP, just 15.2% strikeout, 6.5% walks. He doesn't put too many guys on base via the free pass, but you can BABIP this guy to death. You can definitely drive the ball against this pitcher. Lucky to be at a 2.72% home run rate, carrying a 9.9% barrel, 47.5% hard hits, and 91.5 miles an hour of exit velo. He's going back to old silly prospect traditional scouting reporting on this pitcher coming up. There was a lot of Greg Maddux-like type buzz about good strike thrower, good spot hitter, but like not a premium fastball or anything like that. So far, none of that is really translated to the show outside of not really walking that many hitters. Right now, he's just a lot of bat on ball. 7.5% swinging, 22.5% CSW, so has not been throwing many strikes this year. Last year, the results were kind of similar. Over 50 innings in 10 starts as a rookie, 4.32 ERA with a 4.57 xFIP, 21.4% strikeouts, a little bit higher, obviously. 10.5% walks, significantly higher. 12.1% swinging was very good last year. That was him on form, but it didn't amount to many strikeouts. 26.9% CSW, more reflective of that higher swinging strike rate. Just a lot of targetability here. What we're not seeing is major marks in the home run model, though. Even Ellie, just a 6.81. What were his home run numbers last year? It was all right at missing home runs last year in the 10 starts. Probably mostly just small sample, though, given the bat on ball that's available here. I feel like those could be a little bit higher. A little bit of happenstance kind of coming through in the model here. You got a few guys halfway to the magic number. You've got Elliott 6.81. He would obviously be the priority in this lineup. Gavin Lux in the leadoff role at 3,826 is kind of interesting, though. 276, 370, 381, kind of normalized after a hot start, a 325 xWOBA, just a 104 ISO, not a power bat, but a guy who can put the ball in play, a guy who can get to first base via the walk. 370 on base is stellar. 13% walks is, in line with expectations for him. It's higher than it was last year, but not crazy. Definitely interested in Lux in the outfield, and at 2,600 at second base, that would be ideal. I would much rather have Gavin Lux than Santiago Espinal. Espinal hit tool focus 284, 345, 339 has not been bad, but just a .055 ISO with 300 xWOBA, a 90 WRC plus so far, even lighter contact than Gavin Lux. Lux does have a little bit of pop in that bat. We'll see whether it translates to doubles power or a little bit of true home run, like 15 home run type power. Right now, it's looking more like doubles power, if that. Pairing Lux at 38 and Ellie at 55. Already averages Ellie down to 46.50. And then let's say we bolt on Austin Hayes, who's been hitting pretty well over 71 plate appearances. We're at 46 apiece. If instead of Hayes, you wanted to grab Spencer Steer at first base, 4,300 apiece for Lux, Ellie, and Steer against Davis Martin as a three-man. That's great. Their team's at a 5.5 plus implied total. That's a cheap little three-man with a superstar and two decent bats. You could easily build this team out to 5. There's a guy down here we'll talk about at 3,000 in a minute as a high-quality lefty option against this terrible pitcher. I pointed to him. I should just say that it's Will Benson. So far, over 13 plate appearances, 167, 231, 250 obviously does not show the appeal, nor does the lack of barrels, just the 14.3% hard hit rate. Last year, 11.5% barrels in a down season, 388 plate appearances. He did hit 14 home runs. He did steal 16 bases. That is noteworthy. He slashed 187, 274, 376. That's terrible. He was 25% worse than average for run creation, also very bad, but a 190 ISO. Kind of interesting for such a cheap price. Nobody going to go to him. 11 home runs, 19 steals with a 275, 365, 498 2 years ago. 223 ISO, a 128 WRC plus. Guess what? That's who Will Benson actually is. So if the mechanism gets engaged today against a pitcher who should allow plenty of contact, $3,000 Will Benson is very appealing in red stacks. At 2,200 in the outfield on FanDuel, he is super appealing. I like that option a lot. Kind of wish he was hitting like 5th, but I'll take it. Steer is okay. Decent for counting stats. 190, 265, 299 is obviously underwhelming. The 276 xWOBA tells us that there's not a lot of expectation for much to come back. Not great with bat on ball, but you can grab a few barrels, a random home run. Strikeouts should normalize down a little bit. Walks, we'll see where they land, but the last 2 seasons have been a little bit higher in medium samples. Hayes, 17.4% barrels so far this year, slashing 308, 366, 585 with 5 home runs over 71 plate appearances. That's like the idealized version of who Austin Hayes was supposed to be. He's given us some quality over the last few seasons, though. Definitely a key spot in hitting cleanup against this pitcher. A lot of upside with that power upside, and even if it's doubles, I think there's plenty of upside. 3,200 in the outfield on FanDuel, 4.86 in the home run model, could easily be a little bit higher. Jose Trevino is not much of a hitter, but he's been very good so far this year. Can't take it away. 307, 340, 523, a 216 ISO, a 312 xWOBA. Probably tells us a little bit more of the true story. 5.3% barrels, 35.1% hard hits last year, 2.9 and 31.6 the year before, 6.4 and 43.6 so far this year. I like those to trend down, but he's not a high strikeout hitter in any way. Not a high walk batter, but can draw a walk here and there. Typically going to give you bat on ball and opportunities. And if there are runners on base in front of him, he could provide some scoring. Not a terrible option if you're building a lot of red stacks at 3,600 a catcher on DraftKings. You should mix him in. Given the lack of a true first baseman on this team, you can easily play him on FanDuel for just 25 and use him in that role. It's just, temper expectations. You're probably talking about a base hit with maybe a run scoring event. Matt McClain, way down lineup. I actually didn't notice that he was down there until just now. He's still a super appealing bat as well. 11.5% barrels and 47.4% hard hits this year. He's slashing just 168, 297, 304. The results haven't been great. But look at the counting numbers. 5 home runs, 10 steals. Even in things we don't care about, like runs and RBIs, 20 runs scored, 15 ribbies. Not a great spot to provide those correlated scoring events from down lineup, but his power absolutely plays down there. His walks, 13.4% walks so far this year against 32.2% strikeouts, sure, but I will take the upside with Matt McLain down lineup. Second base eligible, 4,500. That's a bargain price. 3,000 second base and shortstop on FanDuel. Obviously, don't play him instead of Ellie, but alongside as a wraparound from down here. Give me that. Rhys Hines is playable. 1 home run on the board in 11 plate appearances. We saw a little outburst of power a couple seasons ago, but mix and match quality. But this, like that, and then that's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. All right. A 5-man with Lux, Ellie, Hayes, Benson, and McLain. There's connectivity from here to here, and there's also connectivity from there around again. The average price of that is $4,300 a piece, $4,240 to target Davis Martin. That is a great 5-man. Really like that. It gets a little trickier because I can only use 4 of those guys on FanDuel. If I'm doing it's probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, and don't mind the gap. And that's an average of 3,000 a piece. And I'm getting Ellie, Hayes, Benson, and McLain. Not bad. Fill both middle infield spots, pair of outfielders. I get 2 premium corner infielders with my money saved. Not bad at all, guys. Reds bats, Nick Lodolo. Really nothing from the White Sox, but if you're going there again, maybe some peskiness with like 1, 2, 3 as a 3-man. I would throw Caro into there if you want to go 4 or want to go 5 and take the 5 hitting Andrew Vaughn, and you're at $3,240 a piece. It's very, very cheap to play White Sox, but the opportunity is kind of limited. Oof, I got to talk faster. I'm going in deep on each of these games like it's a short slate. 4:30. Gun's here. What's up, Gun? Good to see you, buddy. Cujo. Good to see everybody. Gun came in a few minutes ago. I got lost in the spreadsheet and don't have the chat window up a lot of the time. Miss some of those things. Hey, by the way, the website, for those of you who aren't familiar, rotoscouts.com. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. Engage with us over there. Engage with us in the comments on the video. Appreciate everybody who does comment on the videos, as I've been calling for recently. Does help with the algorithms and the whatnot. So do the little thumbs up down there. So do the subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I implore you to do so. Trying to get it to 1,000. Once we get to 1,000, I will stop caring that much. I obviously will like to have, I just saw that, Monty. That was what I was glancing at. I got the Eugenio Suarez home run update. Love that guy. He can mash. He's on the Dynasty team, has been for years. The hell was I saying? I was talking about the website somehow. Oh, the subscriptions. The subscriptions on YouTube. Once we hit 1,000, that triggers the ability to do some things with the tools that YouTube makes available. And that's all I'm looking for. And I'll stop haranguing you guys about subscribing to the YouTube channel. Mute the notifications, whatever. I don't care. It's fine by me. Subscribe to the website too, though. Everything's under $1 a day. We've got baseball, NBA, and NHL playoffs going on right now. Those projections are live on the site. You get all these projections for DraftKings and FanDuel for every individual hitter, every pitcher. You get an individual home run model number for every single hitter on the slate, plus my home run picks, plus the top stacks tool, plus the power index. I didn't grab the top stacks today. Let me do that. Take a quick look at the top stack rankings while we're here. This is not helping with the pace of the show, but that's okay. I popped this in here yesterday. I'm going to try and do it more often. That's what we're looking at today. So again, the Mets up at the top with no Soto and with the conditions working against you, could easily knock them down a few points, but they are the 5th ranked Vegas team. They're the tops in the home run model. That was run with Soto in it, but I think they would still probably be top 2, top 3. Still a great opportunity. Texas, very solid looking against Sensatella. The Dodgers are the Dodgers, but Hoagland is a good young pitcher, but easily playable spot. The top ranked team in Vegas. The Pods, the Reds, who we just talked about, ranked 5th on both sites for fantasy points. A little bit That's a shaky value number, given how cheap that stack is that we just talked about. That value number on DraftKings is a little odd. I'm not sure what skewed that. It might have been something in the projected lineup versus the confirmed lineup, which priced differently. FanDuel, it looks like the value came through either way. There's one oddball price in there somewhere that skewed that somewhat. The home run number is notably low against Davis Martin, as we talked about, is particularly around guys like Ellie, but really liking the appeal of that Cincinnati stack that we just built. And then we'll get to some of these other teams later. You can see the value mark on Colorado, as I referred to, going up against Patrick Corbin. It's uncomfortable, but there is value there because all of those guys are cheap. And then we decline as we get into some of the better pitchers, but there are playable options down this way. Interesting slate. Nats and the Braves, Mitch Parker, Bryce Elder. Not exactly a pitching duel. Let's see if we got the Nats lineup in. We probably do. We do. Synthetic elects Jock on DK at 2.8 with him heating up against a bad righty. Jock Peterson against any righty, absolutely. I mean, within reason. But yeah, particularly in that spot, I suspect he'll get a little bit popular Synthetica, but as far as drawing one of the bats from that Rangers lineup, absolutely love the opportunity for him to succeed. Money says that ball sure does carry better with some sunshine on the West Coast afternoon games. Yeah, for sure. Although we've seen some explosive scoring out west just in general in both leagues. So Parker at 72, 8,000, striking out just 13.3% and walking 11.2%, 3.97 ERA with a 5.40 xFIP. As mentioned at the top of the show, a lot of the damage in the ERA came over the last 3 games. 4 earned runs, 5 earned runs, and 6 earned runs in 5 innings, 4 innings, and 4 innings. I should have done those consistently. It was 4 earned runs in 4, 5 earned runs in 4, and 6 earned runs in 5. In the 5-inning game against the Mets, over which he gave up those 6 earned runs, he struck out 0 and walked 5. That was coming off of that 8-inning start. It was 8 innings, faced 27 Orioles, 1 hit them, shut them out, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and has been terrible since. Did something happen that game? Did he get overextended? We don't know. But the results have been terrible since then. Strikeouts have been way down. The second game coming off of that one, 4 innings against Cincinnati, 5 earned runs, 1 strikeout, 4 walks. Got back up to 5 strikeouts, but gave up 4 earned, walked 2 over 4 innings against the Cards in his most recent start. There are Ks available in the Braves lineup. He struck out 6 back in mid-April against the Pirates, but not a premium strikeout pitcher already. I'd be more concerned about the frequency of contact that's probably going to be available. Certainly about the walks, that ugly xFIP underneath an ERA that is still kind of okay looking. He hasn't given up much in terms of barrels, hasn't given up any home runs at all, really, 0.51%. He's given up 1 home run this season. Last year, that was just a 2.79, but it came on 38.9% hard hits, 89.6 miles an hour of exit velo, some barrels, a fly ball trajectory. So it's not like he's doing anything necessarily obvious to limit those home runs. A little bit of happenstance to keep this below like the mid 3s, and wouldn't necessarily have been over 4 last season on that contact, but little happenstance on his side there, and it's kind of carried through into this season, but he has notably missed some barrels so far this year. I don't think it's safe. It's having a minor impact on the Braves home run numbers. Again, this trio of hitters that's typically over 10, you can see there is a little impact there given his positive results, but it might be another situation where the home run model is just more slightly on the results rather than the ought to of it. It's an interesting back and forth there. But I'm much more on the side of the Braves than that 5+ implied total. Again, we're just going to be talking about a lot of these home teams going through. Braves notably cheap, 4,800, 4,300, 4,600 for the trio of power bats, plus Sean Murphy at 45. Not bad for guys who all have double-digit barrel rates, 2 of them in the 17s, nobody below 12. Everybody, or 3 out of those 4 hitters in the 50s for hard hits. Sean Murphy, 43.9, not too shabby. 7 home runs for him is tied for... Austin Riley in the lead at 8. 2 of those hitters at 7. And then Marcelo Ozuna at 6, carrying a 271, 424, 444 slash line and creating runs at a 148 clip, which is the best in that group. That is a fantastic 4-man to throw at a pitcher like Mitchell Parker. Don't sweat the lefty-lefty with Matt Olson at all. Love the upside for power against this pitcher. The 389 xWOBA tells us that we should see normalization in the slash line. Even if he doesn't hit for average, 346, perfectly fine in the on base, should see better results overall given the premium contact that he's been making. Again, 17.1% barrels, 55% hard hits. Looks a lot like the guy he was 2 years ago when he mashed 50-plus home runs. We've just seen some slippage in the actual outcomes rather than the quality. 179 ISO tells you that. Eli White in the leadoff role. You're getting a 347 on base over 96 plate appearances, 287, 347, 494, a 207 ISO. He's hit 2 home runs. He's stolen 3 bags. 319 xWOBA is around the average, tells us that we should see some normalization overall, but he's been good. He's cheap, is a bolt-on part against this pitcher. There's nothing at all wrong with grabbing him. 3,500, 2,500 help you average down already cheap pricing. Let's say you just 5 minutes straight down the line, 4,300 a piece. FanDuel, if you wanted to do like that as a 4-man that's playable for 31 a piece, I'd obviously rather have that 4-man and just go first base util, 32.50. A lot of affordable bats. And that's without even talking about the cheap and underperforming Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris down lineup. We've talked about those guys enough. They're at least giving us some counting stats. 5 steals, 7 steals. Albies and then Harris. Albies has also hit 5 home runs. Harris has hit 3. 67 and 65 WRC plus marks should definitely come up, but that's difficult to justify with stats like xWOBA. Right now, both of these guys are dramatically underperforming their talents. We will see where it goes, but they're playable because they're cheap. Stuart Fairchild, Nick Allen, mix and match guys down lineup at the absolute best. Fairchild gives you a little bit of pop, 18.8% barrels in what is a handful of batted ball events over 23 plate appearances, seeing no results for it whatsoever. Last year, he had 8 home runs in 233 chances, a 153 ISO, 5 home runs in 255 the year before, 5 home runs in 110 the year before that. Always gives you around a 160, 170 type ISO with a little bit of doubles type power. Playable, but not appealing. Nick Allen is mostly here for defense. The Nationals bats at a 4.09 implied total. They're one of the more appealing away teams. If they come in at low ownership, I see nothing wrong with grabbing some contrarian Nats. Let me see, actually, where are they owned? With all those big numbers on the home teams, I can't imagine they're going to be that popular. It's a targetable pitcher. Bryce Elder's pitching to a 4.97 ERA. A 3.94 xFIP underneath that is not bad. 18.8% strikeouts, 7.5% walks, but too many guys on base at a 1.29 whip. Some bad results there. And the BABIP is typically something that is going to burn a pitcher like this. It's pretty high frequency of contact, doesn't induce many swinging strikes, doesn't throw enough strikes overall. The high quality of contact, 10.2% barrels, 44.9% hard hits, 89.7 miles an hour exit velo, leading to a 5% home run rate. All of that is realistic. Jibes kind of with numbers in the past, 3.54 last year, easily could have been above 4 given these numbers here. That launch angle is not bad though. 8.1 degree average launch saved him there. 9.1 could be doing the same thing this year and keep that down a little bit. Another one, we'll see where it goes, but a very gettable pitcher. The Nationals, outside of their shortstop, very low owned on FanDuel. Everybody in the single digits other than the shortstop on FanDuel. Probably going to be similar on DraftKings. Everybody in single digits on DraftKings. All right, let's talk Nats against Bryce Elder then. I wouldn't really consider much Elder. 84 on FanDuel. At 75 on DraftKings, maybe a couple darts if you're building 150 lineups and utilizing the bargain bin a lot. That's just like a blind, I'll dip my hand into the bargain bin and take whatever comes up type of a play, though. It's not a great opportunity. This Nats team currently at 24.9% strikeout rate on average. They do have some free swingers in this lineup now. They've got a couple guys who are appreciably low strikeout. No Keibert Ruiz in here, though. Hurts that low strikeout ability. CJ in the top spot for just 48, 33 on FanDuel. He's slashing 303, 359, 521. Mashing at 386 xWOBA under the covers tells us everything's real. 11.5% barrels, nearly 45% hard hits. Low strikeout, medium walk, a lot of high quality contact, 6.24 in the home run model. As a one-off, that's appealing. I think you probably want to play the Nats as a small stack if you're playing them, It's probably like 1, 2, 3, the obvious bats there. You could maybe argue for some Ahmed Rosario in that mix if you wanted to go at second base instead of first base and just do that, fill both middle infield spots and grab one outfielder. That brings us to 4,600 exactly. If you're there, it's 46 and change, so 47. There is playability down lineup. You can, if you're building a bunch, go down this way, or even in one, it's not a crazy idea if you wanted to go 5. You go 1, 2, 3, and then I'd probably go Cruz and Bell. Call has been decent this year in terms of the slash line, the on base, the run creation, but it's been kind of empty otherwise. And I'm probably hunting for a little bit of power. Dylan Cruz is putting great bat on ball, seeing very mixed results, but he's hit 5 home runs. He's also stolen 10 bases. Everything else over here sucks, but this is appealing. Josh Bell making his typical medium contact. Hasn't seen great results. He's hit 5 home runs, but slashing 143, 234, 286 in the small sample. Nothing about that xWOBA is overly encouraging. Dylan Cruz's xWOBA is encouraging. They've got their 2 of their guys that come in typically against lefties, Riley Adams and Alex Call. Call's made 99 plate appearances. Again, kind of empty. 312, 423, 390. Creating runs 35% better than average by xWOBA. It does have a 349, by WRC Plus. Does have a 349 xWOBA under the covers. Low strikeout, high walk so far, but just 2.9% barrels, 30% hard hits this year, 5%, 32% last year, 5 and 29 the year before. Pretty empty. Jose Tena at 25, 22 at third base. Kind of weak 75 plate appearances so far. Not much meat on the bone there. Nothing to really justify much upside. Was decent in a small sample last year. How big was that? 168 plate appearances, 3 home runs, 267, but just a 298 on base, 354 slug. Just a .087 ISO despite some okay contact. 8.3% barrels, 49.2% hard hits in that small sample. Adams has put some good wood on the ball in 28 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs, 21.4% barrels, 71.4% hard hits. But you can see what the results have kind of looked like. 338 xWOBA, 250 ISO. There is power there. Mix and match quality catcher from the 9 spot is not really what we're looking for. He's not really of wraparound quality. He's more a finisher than a starter. So it's probably the highlighted guys. Anything 1 through 7 really. But the appeal is probably 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, I would say. Rosario, if you play him, you want at second base, 4,100. Maybe in the outfield on FanDuel, if not second base. Slashing 293, 312, 440. He's been all right. 361 xWOBA has got appeal over 77 plate appearances. Created runs 10% better than average while being low strikeout and low walk. So a lot of bat on ball. It's been decent quality bat on ball this year. 6.3% barrels, 43.8% hard hits in the small sample. Last year, the year before, it was a lot lower. We'll see where it goes. Braves bats, Nationals bats. Really, it's neither pitcher. I'll give the slight edge to Mitchell Parker and follow the projections. I was going to say it the other way around, but I'll chase a little minor amount of strikeout upside with Mitchell Parker because I think Bryce Elder is more the low strikeout guy for real. Ketel Marte home run. That's close, though. Marlins and the Cubbies. Again, I don't think we've got enough meat on the bone with Ryan Weathers as far as innings, and it's an inimedial opponent to throw him at in this situation. The one thing you could chase is that $5,700 price on DraftKings. If you do it knowing that you're probably getting 4 and maybe change and a limited shot at that win bonus in 5 innings. Last year, over 16 starts, 86 and 2/3, he gave us 21.8% strikeouts. He was all right, 3.63 ERA with a 4.01 xFIP, 11% swinging strike rate. Okay whip, okay on contact, home run rate, not abnormal. Again, was sparklingly good in spring training. Major breakout candidate for everybody coming into the spring. Held up very nicely through spring training, but it's spring training. You can only count it for so much. Throwing 99, 100, but going to be limited. If this team works pitch count at all, like they're very capable of doing, if they exploit walks, they are already pretty low strikeout. They can put power on the ball. They've got a lot of quality righty bats. It's just not a good day for it. But if you do it on DraftKings. 75 on FanDuel, I think, is out of play. 4.48 implied total for the Cubs. They're starting Jameson Taillon on the mound. 9,000 is uncomfortably high, even against the Marlins for Jameson Taillon. 19.3% strikeouts with a 5% walk, 4.53 ERA, but a 4.01 xFIP underneath that. This looks a lot like the Jameson Taillon that I know pretty well. 12+% barrels allowed, 39% hard hits, just 88.1 miles an hour of exit velo, but all this has resulted in 5.5% home runs so far. Very vulnerable to power. 4.12 2 years ago. 3.11 was okay this year. Happened on lower contact. He was improved for premium contact that year. It looked more like, I think, this year. Yeah, 3.57. So it comes and goes, but even in the good seasons, we're 3+. It's targetable enough. It's just the Marlins of it on the other side. But at least it makes me interested in, let's say, Jesus Sanchez, who I just like as a hitter in a full vacuum. If you could just give me cheap Jesus Sanchez shares and I can use them where I want, I'll take that. And when I can get it against Jameson Taillon, it's not off the board. It doesn't necessarily mean stack, even in a contrarian sense. Vegas is kind of telling us that at 3.11, as are the projections. They're one of the lowest ranked teams on the board. But there's a little quality there in terms of hit tool, ability to get on base and set the table for that power bat. So now I'm maybe kind of considering a two-man with a shortstop and an outfielder. Shortstop slashing 263 through 39, 293. There's no power there at all. Just an 80 WRC plus, 11 stolen bases. Kind of coming around a little bit. Last year, over 303 plate appearances, essentially half a season. Xavier Edwards slashed 328, 397, 423. Creator runs 28% better than average on one of the worst teams in baseball. Stole 31 bases. That's an interesting hitter at shortstop at 2,900, 4,200 on DraftKings if I'm considering some cheap low-end, and low-owned Marlins. You get Eric Wagaman here, who's been pretty meh. 334 xWOBA is kind of intriguing, at least, though, under the covers. The premium contact kind of goes along with that. 7.3% barrels, 44.5% hard hits, while being fairly low strikeout, medium to low walk. For 31-26 as an outfielder, all right, he'd be in the conversation if I was forced to go to the Marlins, but we could probably do better. Maybe some Agustin Ramirez, who's carrying a 12.1% barrel, 51.7% hard hits, striking out less than 20% of the time, medium walk rate, has 4 home runs and a stolen base on the board in just 78 plate appearances, also fills in at catcher from the heart of the lineup for 4,100 against the guy who is historically vulnerable to runs, to home runs, doesn't really strike out that many hitters. Now I'm kind of intrigued. 274 ISO so far, 346 xWOB. It tells us it's pretty real. Kid's a high-end prospect. Cal Stowers, who has been absolutely mashing over 157 plate appearances to start his season, 287, 365, 507, 221 ISO, a 383 xWOB, 8 home runs. The best player on the Marlins, legitimately right now. 8.20 on the home run model, second on the team. Matt Mervis has 7 home runs on the board. He's got a 7.71 in the home run model for cheap. 3,400 at first base. He's carrying a 10+% barrel, 44.6% hard hits, over 109 plate appearances. You just got to ignore the 188, 275, 427 of it and not talk about the fact that the 259 xWOBA is completely discouraging. We're just chasing some results that have already happened with this hitter. But there's at least the pedigree that those should come around again more frequently as he develops and is given an opportunity. Connor Norby's making great contact. 11.5% barrels, 46.2% hard hits at 269, 313, 436. The results have been kind of up and down. 107 WRC plus is one of the few positive run creators on this team, though. Very cheap at third base. Don't love the positioning at third, but could use. Second base at 2,700. All right, a little bit more appeal there. Last year, he hit 9 home runs and 194, had a 202 ISO, creator runs 1% better than average as a rookie. Derek Hill, mix and match option. Javier Sanoa, kind of the same thing. Each guy's got a couple home runs, stolen bases, not really good run creation numbers, no real support for any kind of true upside. You're getting a little bit of contact out of Derek Hill, which he gave us last year in a small sample. Not so much from Sanoa, but he's been low strikeout, medium walk, so frequency of contact there. But like 1, 2, maybe like 3, 4, 5 as a 5-man is not crazy. 3,900 a piece or 3,920, so call it even 4,000. Now, for what was it, 4,400? We were getting to that, I think it was the Reds before. So it's offset cheap, but there are other bargains with much, much better baseball teams in similarly good spots. But that is not a crazy group of hitters to attack Jameson Taillon with for under 4,000 apiece on DraftKings as a 5-man. And then you can take Yoshi Yamamoto off the top of the board at pitcher. You could probably get another medium grade pitcher and a very good 3-man. It's, again, this is a DFS play, not a baseball play, because these are bad baseball players overall. This is a baseball team that is relegated to a 3.11 implied total today. So don't get carried away with it. This is a mixer if you use it at all. But they are at least intriguing at those prices, given just some of the actual quality that's there. And I'm not even saying doing things that they're not already doing. As mentioned, though, I kind of said Sanchez is my favorite bat there and then never really talked about him. What we're chasing is these results. 12.2% barrels each of the last 2 years, 50.9 and 46.3% hard hits. He just needs to be in the lineup. 18 home runs, 16 steals, and 537 last year. Could have easily been a 2020 season in 600-plus plate appearances. 100 WRC plus could have been higher. So could that ISO. 197 ISO 2 years ago with a 109 WRC plus, hit 14 homers in 402 plate appearances. Never going to be an overly consistent hitter, but very good, very real power from the left side against a bad righty. If nothing else, that's a compelling one-off. Cubbies, I think you're going there pretty aggressively at 4.48. You'll get Weathers, and again, that could be a little bit problematic for a few innings, but then you get a lot of upside going up against the Marlins bullpen with spectacular options, and there's nothing to say that these guys couldn't get to Weathers as he's coming back. Monty calling out James Wood likely finishes the season priced near 5.5. CJ should also be slated at 5. Did I kind of breeze through James Wood when I was talking about that lineup? I highlighted those guys and I was using the choices, but I didn't really talk about him. He's making insane contact. He's hit 11 home runs, 396 xWOB with a 262 ISO. He's been absolutely terrific. He should already be in that price territory, honestly. He is on FanDuel. That's the equivalent of a $5,500 DraftKings price. CJ is also underpriced, as you call out, Monty. You're absolutely right about both of those things. Still no Cubs lineup in. So, yeah, Cubs on the board to attack Ryan Weathers with. You're just getting such good bats. Everybody in that top 4 in this projected lineup above a 10% barrel with excellent hard hit numbers. There are some Ks in there, but there's also a lot of ability to draw walks. The Ks for Dansby are a little bit higher than typical. Seiya Suzuki right in line with expectation as far as the strikeouts, but the walks are slightly down. But he's traded that off for just absolutely brutalizing the baseball right now. 10 home runs, a 258 ISO, a 350 xWOB, 15.5% barrels. Love the option there. Carson Kelly from the right side against the lefty. Tons of power for him. 10.48 today in the home run model. One of 2 guys above the magic number. The other's Kyle Tucker. We don't sweat the lefty with him ever at all against anyone, with very probably few exceptions. But Dansby at 9.12 in the home run model. Tucker above a 13, 8.76 for Suzuki. Kelly above a 10. Down lineup, Pete Crow Armstrong at 7.38 could easily be higher. And if he hits higher up in the lineup, he will go higher. What's lefty? What's it looking like for Pete lefty? It's got to be good. He's been just terrific so far this year. 220, 238, 512 slash line. Little funky. 106 WRC plus and a 293 ISO with 3 of his 11 home runs against same-handed lefties in just 43 plate appearances. So the power and the contact have been very real against lefties. The results in the slash line haven't been great, but everything that you like about going to Pete Crow Armstrong should be intact. He's been excellent. 267, 307, 545, a 279 ISO, creating runs 36% better than average, 11 homers and 13 steals. The kid's looking like a superstar given if you add in his defense. John Birdie, Nico Horner, as always, just mix and match quality guys. You can play either one. You're getting hit tool, you're getting speed. Horner so far has been the better of the two and probably is the better long-term player. 281, 321, 346, 8 steals. Just a 91 WRC plus out of him, just a 64 so far out of Birdie. Vidal Brujan at the bottom of the lineup is just cheap. You're not getting much offense out of him. Justin Turner at 26, 25. Kind of dead at the plate, over 72 plate appearances. Probably gotten a little bit long in the tooth. So we'll see what version of the Cubs lineup we get. We could definitely get better than this, but even Turner's playable if he's hitting in the heart of the lineup for such cheap prices. There is a little bit of upside, not that you can see it in the numbers, but just for the sequencing that's available there, his ability to draw a walk, his ability to put the ball in play with some of the guys on base ahead of him, keeps him alive. But the top 4 hitters are your priority. Tucker's obviously a superstar at any price. 10 home runs, 10 steals in 198, 262, 369, 524, a 417 xWOBA, a 262 ISO, just looking like Kyle Tucker. Cubs bats. Jamison Taillon. Ryan Weathers, $5,700 darts. A whole bunch of space. Tons of other things listed. And then maybe a dart or two of cheapo contrarian Marlins bats, just because it's Jamison Taillon on the mound, just because it's also an opportunity to, I'm assuming he's going to be popular. Yeah. Give me the opportunity, if I'm doing that, to target a pitcher who's going to be 30 to 40% owned on DraftKings. That's also appealing. That's actually a little bit of a game theory bump for the Marlins. Not off the board, but again, that is talking about a team that ranks next to last on our board today. Doesn't even really show that value because of how low projected they are. That 8 in the home run model is kind of interesting, though. Sneaky. Not a good kind of sneaky. Not like the Diamondbacks and the Athletics last night. Yeah, we ranked it. We talked about it. That's about it. Let's move on. Rocks and the Rangers. We've had the Rockies lineup in for hours. Rangers lineup is here. Pulling a monster total. Second highest of the day among the more appealing teams. They're ranked second on the board. Could easily overtake the Mets if I re-ranked it. Usually I just put that up once. I don't want to deal with the copy pasting of images. Follow the changing Vegas totals if you need adjustment. But typically the teams that are going to be at the top of the day are going to be up there at the bottom of the day. If something crazy tragic happens, I might mix it up. This version of the Rangers lineup with Josh Smith up at the top, Wyatt Langford, Jock Peterson, Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien. There's a lot of appeal for power and for, at least in a we know who these guys actually are kind of a sense. You've got some quality up there to throw at a terrible pitcher in Antonio Sensatella. Over 8 starts and 39 innings, he's putting up an impossible 10.3% strikeout rate. 7.6% swinging, 23.9% CSW. His whip is 1.92. That's wildly unsustainable, and it's hilarious against just a 4.9% walk rate. His BABIP probably over 400. BABIP will out, obviously. Ooh, it's close. I was exaggerating and I wasn't wrong. It's 392 against right now. Good God. The Rangers are very highly projected for a reason. This is an incredibly gettable pitcher. Whatever you do, do not play Antonio Sensatella at any price. Even at 5,000, it's going to be negative scoring or such negligible scoring that it's not going to matter. It's not going to help. Even at the cheap price. 5.77 ERA, a 4.65 xFIP, a 4.32% home run rate, 10.9% barrels, 47.4% hard hits, 91 miles an hour of exit velo. Even keeping the ball down at a 7.6 degree average launch can't help him. Year before, that was a 5.56% home run rate on a fly ball trajectory with all these barrels in his 12 and a third innings. Obviously, that doesn't count for much. Year before that, just 2 starts. Going back here, he was okay for limiting power on that low launch angle. Maybe something to watch there if that attribute comes back to life a little bit, but was still incredibly low strikeout. Way too many opportunities with guys on base despite a low walk rate. 5.07 ERA, a 4.07 xFIP, doesn't induce swinging strikes, doesn't throw enough strikes. Bad pitcher, targetable pitcher. I would have said a lot of those things about Patrick Corbin last year, and I'll continue to think them. 3.13 ERA is at least respectable. A 4.73 xFIP is obviously glaring. It's something to target. Just 14.9% strikeouts. There's a lot of contact there. 9% walks. There's a lot of on-base opportunities there. He hasn't given up the premium contact this year that we're typically looking for, though. 5.9% barrels, 31.4% hard hits, 88 miles an hour of exit velo, 3% home run rate. That has amounted to 7 innings last time out, 3 strikeouts, 4 walks, but didn't give up a homer to the Tigers at Detroit. 2 earned runs on just 3 hits. Pretty effective start. 5 2/3 against Seattle. Again, effective. 5 hits, just 1 earned run. Did allow a homer in that one, but it obviously didn't cost him. 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Had a 2 home run game back against the Athletics on the 22nd. I know for sure we targeted him that day. Hopefully we at least checked out our home run pick. 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. It wasn't Tyler Soderstrom because that was after April 17th. But wasn't bad. Just 2 earned runs on the 7 hits. He's going to get nailed at some point, though. He's given up at least 5 hits in every start except for that most recent one in Detroit. Once upon a time, and I'm talking like 2018, 2019, he was a capable lefty. And it completely fell apart. And he's been a favorite target of this show over the last few seasons. He was okay last year. Didn't allow too much power. But the exit velo was too high. The hard hits were too high. Too many barrels. So it should have been higher in terms of the home runs. 76 in stuff plus tells you exactly what you need to know about this pitcher. 5.62 ERA was very targetable. He gave up a ton of runs. 4.14 xFIP. He pitched a little bit better last year than like this year or the year before. 6.31 ERA, 4.21 xFIP, 3.79% home runs with 11% barrels, 4.18% home runs. 83 feels uncomfortably high. 78 is cheap. You're just chasing some strikeout upside against a terrible Rockies team. 28.3% strikeout rate for this confirmed version of the Rockies lineup. It's targetable. I wouldn't begrudge anybody Patrick Corbin shares. I don't feel safe recommending him. He projects out just fine. He's in that next tier down. But I don't know that you want to go use him, and I'm going to talk in some glowing terms about some of these Rockies uncomfortably, kind of like I did about the Marlins a minute ago. And there's probably a little bit more meat on the bone with the Rockies, bad as they've been. They've at least got Hunter Goodman in the middle of the lineup. He would be the comp for like a Jesus Sanchez from the Marlins. Goodman holding down 299, 354, 497 with a 124 WRC plus, a 197 ISO, 6 home runs, 8% barrels and 48.7% hard hits, fulfilling a lot of the expectations. 11.43 in the home run model from the right side. Interesting bat at 2,900. 4,000 on DraftKings as a catcher. Not a terrible consideration as a one-off catcher, if nothing else. Brenton Doyle in the top spot. Slashing just 215, 264, 338. It's been really disappointing. But he's making great contact in that. In his batted ball events, 14.4% barrels, up from 10.5 last year. 44.3% hard hits, up from 40% last year. Strikeouts are down. Walks are slightly down. Similar. And he's got a 331 xWOBA to support the upside. That season I'm referencing from last year, he hit 23 homers and stole 30 bags. Created runs 3% below average for that. But a lot of good counting stats. Another guy who's one of the best center fielders in baseball. Kyle Farmer. I typically like to get Farmer at low ownership from like down in this territory, but if I can get him at low ownership for cheap pricing from up here, I'll do it. Second base, that's where I want him. 5.43 in the home run model. He's hit no home runs this year. He's got a .091 ISO and a 255 xWOBA, pushing 50% below average for run creation. Has barreled just 2.3% of his batted ball events. We've got our low-end home run results. He was bad when we were chasing him for it last year, but he hit 14 in 583 plate appearances 2 years ago. He hit 11 in 369 in 2023. He's been a playable, cheap infielder at second base as a spot filler, and now he's in a decent spot in the lineup against one of our favorite target pitchers. I don't hate it. Bad as he's been, bad as they are. Jordan Beck, 37,300, has been good. 117 plate appearances. He's carrying a 17.8% barrel rate in his batted ball events. Too many strikeouts, not enough walks, but hanging on to 264, 325, 528, a 264 ISO, a 382 xwOBA, and he's supposed to be good. This is him kind of stepping into his talent a little bit. I think the 264 comes down. I think the 121 comes down. Probably not even a 264 hitter, a batting average hitter. I was initially referring to the ISO. They're the same number. But I think the power's real in a could push 20 home runs kind of a sense in a full season. 20 homers in like a 212 ISO. I think that's realistic and could be upside for more. Ryan McMahon is Ryan McMahon. You can throw him even against a bad lefty, but he's not all that good. 13.2% barrels, 52.7% hard hits. The hope there is that you chase Corbin early and then just get into the bullpen and let him attack a righty. He has hit 6 homers. He's got a 186 ISO, 352 xwOBA, looking a lot like Ryan McMahon. Michael Talia is cheap for the power upside. He's hit 5 home runs. He's been otherwise pretty bad. 279 xwOBA is discouraging. 10.2% barrels is down from 17.2 last year, 50% hard hits last year, in which he hit 25 home runs. We're never going to get a good average. We're not going to get much reliable on base. 218, 311, 456 last year. That's better than the 207, 273, 359 we've gotten. I like him to normalize at least back to that territory and hit us a bunch of home runs over the course of the season. There's nothing in the world saying that Michael Talia could not succeed against Patrick Corbin today. If you're going to Rockies, he's a priority. And then we'd be talking about like one. I probably would use Farmer if I was going here. Definitely grabbing those two. Probably skip McMahon and go Talia as my 5th. And I've got a $3,400 exact average. That's cheap. There's purchasing power in that 5-man. You're facing Patrick Corbin. Again, you're going to the last 2 visiting teams I've talked about have been 2 of the very worst teams in baseball. And I even said a few positive things about the White Sox. It's that kind of slate. Sean Bouchard could give you a little bit. 1 home run, 1 stolen base on the board this year. Just 1 and 4 last year with a sub Mendoza. 2 years ago in 43 plate appearances, he hit a quick 4 home runs. It was obviously a nothing sample. But the year before that, he hit 3 home runs in 97 opportunities, /297, 454, 500. So if you put those 2 together for 150-ish, it's kind of around what we've got sample-wise out of everybody so far this year. And he's hit 7 home runs in that sample. He's hit around 300. He's gotten on base around a 375 clip. So maybe a little bit of lingering upside there for a kid who hit a little bit in the minors. Owen Miller, Jacob Stallings, we know and don't really like that much at the bottom of the lineup. But like 1 through 7, at least competitive DFS-wise, given the pricing and how they slot in and the matchup. 3-7-2 in Vegas. Vegas likes them by, 0.6 of a run above where they had the Marlins. Between the two, is probably more appealing than the Rockies. The board certainly bears that out. Again, Rocks right there, ranked 8th. First in value, 9th first in value, 4th by home runs because they're facing Patrick Corbin. Just 13th on the Vegas board on an 18-team slate, but solidly in the middle of the board. Ranking out above Toronto and Kansas City. You could easily argue that the other way. And again, when you see these rankings, keep in mind that we're talking about decimal points. We're not talking about a huge gap between those 2 teams. So I didn't actually go through the Rangers hitters. I just kind of referred to them. But again, Josh Smith plays every position on FanDuel for 3,000. That's just utility. There's a lot of usability in Josh Smith. He's not a 300, 389, 466 hitter, but he's not bad either. 4 home runs, 4 steals, not off pace for 132 plate appearances. You're never going to get great contact out of him, but he's very, very capable. And there's appeal in the leadoff spot for a lefty against this pitcher. He could be on base 5 times today and score a bunch of runs and create some good events. Wyatt Langford, tons of good bat on ball, 11+% barrels, 7 home runs, 7 steals, getting on base like crazy, 221 ISO, 134 WRC plus, kind of holding down the star role for this team right now. Like the option at 53.35 when everybody else is cheap. Jock at 28.25. Somebody mentioned him in the chat. He's slashing just 126, 244, 223, and I just don't care. 1 home run on the board, just a 294 ISO. There's nothing about this year that is even easy to justify any of the faith in Jock Peterson with. It's just everything else we've seen over the years with this hitter. We know that he mashes bad righties. We know that he's way too cheap. He's got a 7.67 to lead the team today in the home run model. Priority bat if you're going to the Rangers, and everybody's going to the Rangers. He's going to be popular, but maybe a little less than he ought to be given the underperformance so far this year, and nothing about that is real. Adolis Garcia, you got to squint to see it, but the 15.7% barrels, the 48.7% hard hits look a lot more like the guy who mashed 39 home runs 2 years ago than the guy who dipped 25 last year. He's got 5 on the board, 5 stolen bases, 336 xWOBA suggests that there's going to be a return to form, as does the contact. I continue to have faith. I think he's a masher and he's going to get right, and this could be a great spot to make that start to happen. 7.11, not nothing in the home run model. Marcus Semien is a little bit more concerning, I'd say. 310 xWOBA, just a .066 ISO, 48 WRC plus, 52% worse than average now. 7.7% barrels, 35% hard hits. Technically, the barrels are slightly up, and the hard hits are basically exactly the same as they've been past couple of years. Walks are up a little bit, but so are strikeouts. Just getting really thin for Semien, but 2,800 at second base, 3,400 at second base on a team that we're all going to today is viable. Josh Young at 39, 3,000, having a good season, over 130. 340 xWOBA with a 126 WRC plus. He's hit 6 home runs. He's making very good contact at 14.4% barrels. Needs to see some better results, 37.1% hard hits, but there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of quality for a very affordable price. Easy to play at third base. Evan Carter for 4,000, 2,500, much more than just another outfielder. So far, over 27 plate appearances, a home run and 2 steals on the board, a 325 xWOBA, a 14% barrel rate. Should be low strikeout. Well, I shouldn't say that. Last 2 years was fairly high strikeout, actually. Those are mixed samples, 162 and 75 plate appearances, one of which he hit 5 home runs but was bad. The other one he hit 5 home runs and was good. He is supposed to be this kind of a hitter. Maybe not to that extreme, but he's supposed to be that kind of a high-quality bat. And I believe he was low strikeout in the minors, unless I'm misremembering. Yeah, 21.6% strikeouts, 15.8% walks in 2023 over 513 mostly double-A plate appearances. Spiked when he went up to AAA to 25.6 for strikeouts. That's only 90 plate appearances, though. So call it like mid to low 20s probably on the strikeout when it's all said and done. Not particularly low, maybe around the average, but should be high walk, should get on base, should create opportunities, and he's very cheap with a little bit of pop in that bat. Jake Berger, we're hoping for a return to form. 294 xWOBA, it's difficult to see. 3 home runs, difficult to see, but 12.3% barrels, 50.7% hard hits. Like we talked about yesterday, that's an identical number to last year's barrel rate. That's up from last year. We've just seen some poor results, some happenstance in here. Dude hit 29 home runs / 253, 01, 460 with a 209 ISO. Creator runs 6% better than average last year. Hit 34, similar slash line. Creator runs 20% better than average with a 268 ISO the year before on very, very similar contact. That year was an uptick at 16.7%, but I mean, that's within range of what he's doing. Jake Berger should just be better than he's been. And then Higgy. We're always chasing barrels with Higgy. Double-digit barrel rates each of the last 3 seasons. Spiked for 17 home runs last year after hitting exactly 10 in the 2 seasons prior to that. Was always an interesting, sneaky, cheap catcher and remains that. 2,700 at the bottom of the lineup. He's playable. What you don't get out of Higgy is the wraparound skills. But let's say you're building like a late lineup stack. Even as like a 3-man. If you wanted to go, hell, do 1, 2, 3 right there is playable. But it would probably be more apt to go like 1, 2, 3 maybe, and by the on-base quality of Young and Carter ahead of Higgy and hope that Berger doesn't cash in your home run. 3,500 a piece for that 3-man. It's not bad. Obviously, the priorities are top of lineup. 1 is absolute priority. 3 is kind of, or 2 rather. 3 is kind of mandatory. I consider Adolis kind of mandatory. And then you can play the price and position game. But just for those 3 hitters, the 3 guys I just called mandatory, Langford, Jock Peterson, and Adolis Garcia, 41.33 apiece as a 3-man. Cheap to target Antonio Senzatella with a 5.40 implied total against. They're going to be crazy popular. We've seen them at the top of the board the last few days. They failed 2 days ago. They succeeded yesterday, if memory serves. To 5-man that, I would go Boy, it's really tempting to just take it all the way to the price floor by doing that. That gets me to 38.20, sub 4,000 a piece for a 5-man out of Texas in one of the best spots of the day. And I'm getting Langford Peterson, Adolis Garcia, the corpse of Marcus Semien, and whatever Jake Berger's got to give me for under 4,000 a piece. Purchasing power. You could do it this way, in which case I'd probably skip Semien and go to Young or Carter just to get a little extra connectivity there. So then for Langford Peterson, Adolis, Young, and Higgy, 3,800 on the nose each. Against Senzatella, if Higgy had just been priced at 3,800 against this pitcher, I would have blown past it and not even mentioned it. Would have been fine with it. And then you're getting a discount on all the other bats. Or technically not Jock Peterson, but let's be honest, Jock Peterson should easily be 3,800 against this pitcher. Even the top down, even the straight 5-man is 4,000 apiece, 41. The Rangers are just too cheap for this matchup. Same appeal on FanDuel. I mean, you're going right there. I don't mind Jock at first base. If you have a team that you want to grab other outfielders from, Jock can fill first base. No problem with that. I'm including Adolis as a 3-man. That's already 3,033 apiece. If you just bolt on Semien, as a 4-man, it's under 3,000 apiece with Semien in there. You could dip and grab Carter at 25. I'm at 2,900 apiece. Same thing applies with Berger and Higgy. It's one or the other of those guys, in which case you're probably going 3 outfielders from this team and then a first baseman. And it gets us to 28 with Berger. It gets us to 29 exactly with Higgy. Cheap options in Texas. This is bats all day. If you roster a pitcher, it's definitely Patrick Corbin. A little bit of playability there on either side, given the matchup against the terrible high strikeout team. But I kind of lean bats a little bit, given the value, given the power upside that the Rockies can show. This goes Rangers, Rockies, bats. Rangers, bats, Rockies, bats. Patrick Corbin, do not play Antonio Senzatella. 3 games to go, 5:24. We'll make it plenty of time. Royals and the Astros lineups are in. Appreciate everybody who's hanging out. I know we're kind of meandering through this one. Not that that's uncharacteristic. But I feel like I'm taking even more time today. Luxuriating in some of these breakdowns. It's just fun for me. Can you guys tell? Hopefully it's fun for you too. I would imagine that's why you come here every day and hang out. Monty says, the Rockies extended this pitcher in 2021. They get another year of his brilliance for their generosity. Larry chimes in, Colorado is so dumb. C. Bryant contract or Ian Desmond contract. Owner wants MLB to have a salary cap, not just for players, for scouting, tech coaches, etc. Thinks that will help them since they don't pay for research and scouting. Yeah, I was reading a thing the other day that they're the only team in baseball without a proprietary in-house Stuff Plus model. They're the only team in baseball without much investment in advanced analytics. And yeah, they're just so far behind the times. I think it would be a very fun reality show to just take like the White Sox or take the Rockies and just give it to like a group of like DFS analysts, you know, all us people who are out there saying like, you know, I can do this better. Use OOTP to play a season out, and whoever wins that season gets to be the GM of the Rockies next year. Yeah, I agree, Colin. You could absolutely take advantage of that ballpark in ways that they just don't exploit. It's astounding. Get some solid ground ballers in there and hopefully hold down opposing offenses. Like, you could build that team in a really interesting way. And they just don't put any effort into it. There's no real spend there. They made the analytics crew wash laundry during the pandemic. Wouldn't surprise me. Colton Gordon making his Astros debut. So far in AAA this year, 8 starts, 42 and a third. Pitching to a 2.55 ERA, but a 3.94 xFIP. Again, in AAA, pitching as a 26-year-old too. There's a little bit of an age uptick there. 25.3% Ks, 4.7% walks. Last few years in the minors has been sustainably in the mid-20s as far as strikeouts, but an aggressively high walk rate. 9s, 10s, that kind of territory. Last time out, went 6, faced 23 hitters. Start before that, 5, 22 hitters. Start before that, 27 hitters over 7. 8 strikeouts in that start, 5 strikeouts in the middle one, and then the most recent one struck out 9. Allowed 2 earned runs on 5 hits. That was against LA's affiliate, the Angels affiliate. It's been good. I just don't know what the major league talent translation's really going to look like. 7,000 on both sites. To target the Royals just doesn't seem like a great opportunity. If he was at like 4,000 on DraftKings, we'd probably be talking about it. If he was at like even 55, we'd probably be talking about the viability of just the bargain bin of it. I don't think that necessarily applies here. Super low strikeout opponent, 18.5% strikeout rate. A lot of guys capable of drawing walks, enough power, plenty of hit tool, plenty of on base. I just don't like it. Doesn't really align with my vision for success on this slate. Not on my vision board. Michael Lorenzen, 8,200, 8,600, 20.7% Ks, pitching to a 3.57 ERA, but a 4.22 xFIP. A few too many guys on base, but not really via the walk. A little bit of BABIP in there. Giving up a lot of launch, a little bit of barrel, a little bit of hard hit, a little bit of exit velo, too many home runs. Shaky. 11.3% swinging strikes has its appeal, but going up against an Astros team that is also fairly low strikeout, 19.2% for this confirmed lineup, 20.1% last year. Some hitters who have underperformed, but some guys who are also picking up the pace a little bit and normalizing toward expectations, Yainer Diaz. So I don't love the opportunity for Lorenzen at 82, 86, but between the two pitchers, he'd be the guy I go to. That DraftKings price puts him in the mix on a very short pitching slate, but he's one of the less appealing viable options. Primarily, we're here for bats. As mentioned, the Royals, one of the higher implied totals on visiting teams, 4.13. Jonathan India at 3,200, 2,800, always appealing option to bolt on to Royal stacks, given his on-base skills. What he's here for is to set the table for these other players. Oddly, yet to steal a base. Getting on at a 343 clip over 175 plate appearances. Typically, I would have had him pegged for like 5-7 stolen bases so far. Hasn't been doing that at all. But the contact has been around what we expect. The strikeouts are lower than we were expecting. The walks are right around what we expect. He's mostly doing Jonathan India things outside of not providing the counting stats, which is a little bit odd. Typically, he'll give us a few home runs, few stolen bases. 90 WRC plus has a ways to go to find its value, but he should. Bobby Witt at 5,900, 4,100, superstar in any lineup, one-offs, stack, priority, excellent bat to throw at a rookie pitcher, not a bad option. Vinny, 8.9% barrels, 45.2% hard hits. We're at 225, 271, 373, 6 home runs on the board. Signs of life. The strikeout rate is floating in the 18 to 20% range right now. It's uncharacteristically high. We need that to come back down before we really start talking about his normalization. But a lot is kind of clicking into place. Very, very cheap. Even from the left side, there's no issues against the lefty pitcher. Sal Perez, 3,500, 2,800. Has underperformed everything about what he's actually doing at the plate. 119 ISO, 2 home runs in 170 plate appearances. Uncharacteristic for him and just dramatically low for a guy who's barreling the ball in 14.5% of his batted ball events. 45.2% hard hits. Strikeouts are not off of where they've been in the past. There's nothing wrong with Sal right now. He's just seen some bad results. 380 xWOBA so far. Dude is a masher. He should come roaring back to life. I hate the positional conflict there. You don't have to sweat it on FanDuel as much. Michael Garcia putting great bat on ball. He's up to 10 stolen bases, 4 home runs at 289, 359, 447 slash line, 366 xWOBA. One of the better run creators on this team. One of only 2 positive run creators in this confirmed version of the Royals lineup. That's actually kind of surprising. Tells you how much the Vinnies and Sals and Indias of the world have underperformed. Mark Canha, as we talked about yesterday in this lineup, another really good on-base option. Ability to drive the ball a little bit less than Jonathan India maybe over time, but there's the similar ability. Both of these hitters kind of interchangeable parts. So easily could play Canha for 29, 23 in the outfield, but probably prefer India in the infield to either option in the outfield. Michael Massey at 28-25 is very cheap across sites. Hasn't really given us his premium contact upside. 7+% barrels each of the last 2 years with low strikeout was kind of appealing for sneaky ability to drive the ball. So far this year, just 2 homers, 212, 233, 292. Just a 266 xWOB is also kind of concerning given the absence of premium contact. Hunter Renfroe's been dead for the better part of 2-3 seasons. Drew Waters, mix and match play with a little bit of hit tool ability. On the Astros side, the higher of the two totals, probably call it a tie between the appeal of the two spots, though, considering that the Royals are facing a rookie and an overaged rookie. 6 home runs, 6 steals for Jeremy Pena. He's been undeniably good. 350 xWOB, telling us that it's kind of real. Maybe it's just him finally truly arriving as the guy who's given us flashes of this over the last couple seasons. 175 very good plate appearances. I don't want to get too excited about it yet. It's not a player I particularly like, but 13.7% strikeouts is a notable improvement from an already low strikeout rate. He's been undeniably pretty good. Jose Altuve has been undeniably fairly off. 263, 310, 378. It's not completely glaring yet, but a 115 ISO, more concerningly, a 269 xWOBA. Strikeouts are a little bit up, but not in a bad way. Barrels are a little bit down and having a notable impact. There's a little bit of concern. Altuve just a 95 WRC plus so far. Still high priced at 4,400 or affordable. Higher priced than the performance might suggest on DraftKings. 2,900 is a little bit cheap on FanDuel. The ability to put him at second base on both sides. Isaac Paredes, Christian Walker, that's where your power should live. 3,700 a piece on DraftKings, 3,029, essentially the same price on FanDuel. Paredes has 5 home runs and is playing in the appealing home ballpark for them. 331 xWOBA with a 383 on base. A lot of run creation there. So he's been good when he hasn't been homering. Low strikeout, high walk. A lot of upside for run creation opportunities. You need Christian Walker to start coming through behind him to cash some of those in. We'd be seeing better results-based numbers from both of these hitters if he was doing so. Barrels are down. Hard hits are down a little bit. Home run output is obviously down. Output across the board, but we know he's better than this. I still have a lot of belief in this hitter coming around. Jainer Diaz, we're already seeing the turnaround. 239, 266, 384, 4 home runs, a 330 xWOBA. Very low strikeout over time. He's normalized the strikeouts. The walks are always going to be low. Just get the high-quality bat-on-ball and get the batted ball events. He is starting to normalize, but remains very cheap at 3,400. Victor Caratini always in play when he's in the lineup. You get some oddball power out of him. He's hit 2 home runs in his 69 chances this year, putting good bat-on-ball, 8.7% barrels. That's what we're chasing. Hard hits should normalize up. Barrels should normalize down a little bit, but always capable with cheap bat-on-ball from catcher. I don't love that there's a positional conflict with those two guys. Jainer Diaz is by far the better player, and when they're that close in price, it's just appealing to go to Diaz every time, but you can mix in a few Caratinis if you get over the top with Astro stacks. As a one-off catcher, he's in the mix because of how cheap he is. Buying a $2,700 home run at catcher has its value on DraftKings, and you could easily get that here against Lorenzen. Jake Myers, Zach DeZenzo, and Mauricio Dubon down lineup, all mix and match pieces. Myers has been interesting. 7 stolen bases, creating runs 30% better than average with a 338 xWOBA, 2 home runs, 308, 369, 427. Premium contact's never going to be ideal, but he's capable. I kind of like the idea of having him hitting 9th instead of 7th like they are, and just use him as a wraparound piece, but they're not building this lineup for DFS purposes. Minimal connectivity from him back to the top. Maybe you could get away with like a Walker down type build. That's 3,400 a piece. You're getting Walker, Diaz, and then Caratini, Myers, and DeZenzo. DeZenzo, you're just buying a little bit of faith in the barrels and homer hunting. Priorities remain at the top, but there are some cheap, interesting prices. Oh, you can't actually go that way because of the 2 catchers. I didn't think that through. Let's say you went Paredes, Walker, Caratini, Myers, DeZenzo. It's a $3,500 a man stack. It's not ideal. It's not great. I wouldn't get as excited about that as some of the other cheap opportunities from way worse teams that we've talked about. Probably wrong about that. Astros bats, Royals bats, probably closer than that Vegas spread would suggest. And then if you're taking a pitcher, it's probably Lorenzen. 2 to go. None of these 4 teams have confirmed lineups. A bunch of other confirmed lineups are in. We'll get the site updated as soon as the show's over. Hit the like button. Subscribe over at rotoscouts.com for under $1 a day to get all the baseball, all the basketball, all the hockey, NFL when it comes back, anything else that hits that website, all yours for under $1 a day, all in pricing. No per sport nonsense. Trying to keep money in your bankroll. Give you a lot of bang for your buck. Check out our guys over at acemind.io. Also, optimizers, sim tools, promo code rotoscouts all in caps should still get you 20% off your first month. If it doesn't, let me know. I'll make sure it does. Angels going up against Randy Vasquez. Pretty gettable spot. 3.89, maybe a little low. I could easily have seen the Angels coming in at a 4+. Vasquez, 3.76 ERA, but a 6.21 xFIP. Another pitcher at a 10% strikeout rate over 8 starts, 38 and a third innings, 10.2% barrels. Hasn't gotten burnt by that. Just 33.6% hard hits, 86.8 miles an hour of exit velo have saved his life, given the barrels, and the barrels represent the mistakes in that. He's been otherwise excellent at limiting hard hits and exit velo. 14.9 degree average launch. There are fly balls there, but not many of them gotten out. The xFIP tells us everything we need to know, though. 6.4% swinging strikes. Last year, 4.87 ERA, a 4.90 xFIP, a 14.4% strikeout rate over 98 innings in a larger sample of 20 starts was gettable enough for power. Stuff Plus oddly likes the Arsenal at 106. This year, that's down 10 points. There's really not much here. I think he's more targetable than that Angels total might suggest. I don't think they're as interesting as, say, the Athletics last night. But that could be a sneaky good option for like a late night, low-owned upside team. You get a little bit of power coming through. You've got Soler over the magic number at 10.5 in the home run model for just 3,500, 3,000. He's hit 6. He's got a 319 xWOBA, 186 ISO that are a little bit low on both marks. 12.5% barrels, an exact match for last year, but hard hits are down a little bit. Both numbers down from 2 years ago. But we know when he's going, right? Soler can hit home runs with the best of them. Zach Neto is just good in the top spot. 6 homers, 7 steals in under 100 plate appearances. 14.8% barrels, 52.5% hard hits, 256 ISO. Creating runs 41% better than average, getting on base at a tremendous clip. Nolan Shanuel, good opportunity to cash in if Neto's on base ahead of him. You can do that while getting to first base, set the table for Moncada, for Soler. Shanuel's a good 2-hitter. Not a bad option there. I would still probably flip him and Neto. Let Shanuel lead off, but we'll take it. Creating runs 2% better than average. The power will come and go a little bit. He's never going to be much more than a 12 to 14 home run hitter. I don't even know if I give him 15, given the light contact, but he's low strikeout, high walk, a lot of on-base skills. Moncada's not been bad. 20.6% barrels over 60 plate appearances, handful of batted ball events resulting in 2 home runs. A 245 ISO is more interesting. Even more, the 369 xWOB under the cover is really interesting. There have always been skills here. It's really never fully clicked at the major league level, as we talked about a lot, which is why he's kind of cheap. If he's hitting third, 4,200, 2,900, he can fill third base effectively enough if you're going to this team. Not a terrible option. I probably prefer Neto, Shanuel, Soler, Ward, Ohapi, and maybe even Joe Adell. But I think Moncada is very playable if he's hitting third. Ward at 3,400, still 13.2% barrels, 46.5% hard hits with 9 home runs. You get even better contact out of Ohapi for a cheap catcher. At 3,700, let's talk about that for a minute. 3,700 at catcher where you have to play catchers. 17+% barrels, nearly 50% hard hits, 9 homers, a 224 ISO, a 338 xWOBA telling us it's all real. 256, 293, 480. I don't really care about the low on base as long as I'm getting the power. 522 plate appearances last year, hit 20 home runs, a 165 ISO. We're seeing a little bit of an uptick in talent, but I mean, we're seeing an uptick in the quality of contact so far. Maybe that normalizes down, but it's kind of justified by the 2023 sample. That was small, right? 199 plate appearances, 14 homers, excellent contact. Logan Ohapi is just good. He should easily be 800 more expensive on DraftKings, especially with everybody around him cheap. He should be the second most expensive player. If you want to put Neto at 47, and I would argue that he should be over 5, this should be a $4,500 option, especially if you're putting Moncada at 42. It's pretty stupid to have Moncada at 42 when Ohapi's at 37. I'm speaking directly to the DraftKings pricing algorithm now. That's a really compelling option if you're considering this team. I think I'm talking myself into some Angel shares as we go through this. I don't mind O'Hoppe at catcher either on FanDuel. I can skip Shanuel for the power upside depending on what that lineup looks like. 300 more expensive has a little impact, but everybody's cheap. I mean, the most obvious version of the 4-man to me would be like 1 and then 4, 5, 6. And that's 3,100 a piece, 3,050 a piece. On FanDuel, if you wanted to just, let's say, straight line, you don't want a straight line. You want to go 1, 2. We'll skip Moncada for now. And so 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 on DraftKings is 36.60 a man. You're buying an average home run model number of 7.83 against a extreme low strikeout, high contact pitcher. You can get even further down lineup and grab Joe Adell, who's carrying an 8.41 in the home run model. Adell has hit 5 home runs this year. He's got a 180 ISO. He's got a 330 xWOBA, telling us that there is real talent here. 14.3% barrels, 45.5% hard hits. Remember way back at the beginning of the show when I was talking about Chris Morel and how he's a member of that little club around Shohei Ohtani that I showed you guys at the beginning of the year as far as the speed and the frequency at which they swing the bat fast? Joe Adell is also a member of that club. He was on that list. He was the second most shaky option, but he gave us a sneaky 20 home runs and 15 steals that we've been talking about all season last year. The rest of his numbers were terrible, but 451 plate appearances to go 2015 is not nothing. And to do it while making very, very good contact, while carrying the reputation of a monster power prospect. He's late arriving. Yeah, there are flaws. Yeah, he's sub Mendoza with a 233 on base right now. Correct. But he's very, very cheap for the power upside against a bad pitcher. Kyron Paris is not as good as Joe Adell. 6 home runs, 5 steals for him, and 123 plate appearances. The numbers look shockingly similar. He's got a better on-base percentage, stolen more bases, hit more home runs, but he's not as good. Some wonky results there with Kyron Paris. He also strikes out way more at 41.5% so far this year, 28.8 last year. It's an interesting Angels team to throw at this Padres squad. The Pod's obviously the priority, though. 5.22 implied total against the corpse of Kyle Hendricks. Another pitcher with a sub 15% strikeout rate, a 10.1% walk rate, 5.30 ERA and a 5.27 xFIP, almost an exact match. Plenty of barrels, plenty of launch. The premium contact, the hard hits, the exit velo aren't extreme, but that's also partly because he's a soft tosser. Sometimes there is a little component of like soft in, softer out. A little bit difficult to generate extreme exit velo, but still a 4.05% home run rate, sub 80 stuff plus mark. We just got the Padres lineup in. Looks pretty similar to what we're looking at. Man, when I come away from this slate with like a ton of Yamamoto plus Marlins and Angels stacks or Rockies and Angels stacks, I'm really going to be disappointed in myself. Just thinking about that as I'm grabbing this Padres lineup. Tatis in the leadoff role as usual. Luis Arraez in the 2 spot. I think they ought to flip-flop those two. 287, 325, 406 out of Arraez, 108 WRC plus. Doesn't really hit for power, but has 3 oddball home runs on the board. Maybe he's trying to pull a Stephen Kwan on us. Tatis is the priority there. 11 home runs, 8 steals, a fantastic slash line, creating runs 70% better than average, a 424 xWOB under the covers. Tremendous premium contact. Similar contact numbers so far from Manny Machado, who's up to 54 on DraftKings, still just 34 on FanDuel. A little bit of a discount there. 9.99 could easily be over 10 in the home run model against Hendo. 331, 396, 483. What a return to form from Manny. As discussed yesterday, the power of the home run total and the ISO do not jibe at all with the barrels and the hard hits and the contact that he's making. High quality, everything else. So the results have been kind of in place, but there should be more to come from Manny Machado if he keeps this up. So tremendous, tremendous option. Jackson Merrill's fantastic. 438, 464, 719. There will eventually be a cooling off period, but he's a terrific option. 4 home runs on the board, creating runs 132% better than average in the small sample after missing some time, but was tremendous all of last year. Contender for the Rookie of the Year with 24 homers and 16 steals, a 208 ISO, creator runs 30% better than average, and played the entire year, unlike the guy who actually did win the Rookie of the Year. A guy who I absolutely love and totally deserved it, of course. Xander Bogaerts, 41-29. Still playable, given the 333 on base, the ability to connect and maybe create some run scoring events. 3.6% barrels, 40% hard hits. We need to push those numbers up, but at least he's drawing walks, getting on at a 333 clip. That's the appeal. It would be interesting to move him up to one of the higher in the lineup spots and go like Arraez, Tatis, Bogarts, Machado, Merrill would be an interesting way to configure that lineup. Let Bogey hit 3. You could make an argument that he could go into the leadoff spot and you could have Arraez hitting 3rd and go Bogey, Tatis, Arraez, Machado, Merrill. They're just kind of consistently rolling him out here in the middle, and I don't love that. If you get him on ahead of Gavin Sheets, you could get a low-owned run-scoring event there, though, if Sheets hits a homer. 300, 351, 483 has been very good. 349 xWOBA, creating runs 37% better than average with 5 homers on the board. 54% hard hits, 8% barrels. Nothing to really argue with for a cheap bat. Cronenworth, mix and match piece. Very much the definition of a mix and match guy, but he's never all that expensive. 32 on FanDuel, 4,000 on DraftKings, cheaper on DK. You want him at second base, not first. 216 ISO, 3 homers and 67 plate appearances. Been good so far. Lockridge, a little bit of speed, 6 stolen bases. Not getting on base enough to support the upside, but the quality's there. Martin Maldonado, as discussed multiple times, you're just rolling the dice for that cheap home run dart. He'll do it 7-8 times this year. If you have it on the day, then great, but he's going to put a lot of zeros in your lineup. Padres bats, Angels bats. Neither pitcher for me. If you had to take a pitcher, though, it's probably Randy Vasquez. Last game up. Unfortunately, the A's bats, not as much in play as they were last night. Talked about him with great enthusiasm yesterday. Everybody except our home run pick, Mr. Soderstrom, went off. I believe everybody had at least double-digit scoring. Some guys obviously put up monsters. Jacob Wilson had a 50-plus FanDuel point day. Monster Jacob Wilson performance. But literally everybody in this lineup was good yesterday, except the guy I made the home run pick. I made him the home run pick from this team again today, just because I need it. 7.22 in the home run model for Tyler Soderstrom. 9 on the board, but not one since April 17th. Closing in on a month since Soderstrom's last home run. Jason Dominguez double. By the way, if you haven't noticed, Jason Dominguez heating up on the Yankees trip. 389 xWOBA is still on the board for Soderstrom, but you can see the cooling off that's definitely taking place. We're at 280, 339, 491, a 211 ISO. It's just normalization, though. This is more like who we ought to be in the longer term, but we should see the home runs return at some point. Brent Rooker, just a 7.90 on the home run model because they're facing Yoshi Yamamoto. Not nothing. He's got 10 on the board this year, 228 ISO. He's an absolute masher. If I'm playing anybody from the A's, he's my top priority, Brent Rooker. Probably pairing him with Jacob Wilson and one of the surrounding power bats like Soderstrom, Langoliers, Lawrence Butler. And probably would do it as a 3-man. But there's really very little appeal here in going to the Athletics. You can see Yamamoto, just a 2.2 degree average launch allowed so far this year, 5.6% barrels, 2.29% home runs. That honestly, that is even a little high given this. He's a Cy Young contender if he's going like this all season. 180, 252 xFIP under that sparkling ERA, inducing a 13.4% swinging strike rate, a 31% CSW, 30.3% strikeouts. Don't really care about the walks when he's doing all this. Sub 1 whip. Very, very difficult matchup for the A's. So really keeping them off the board, keeping them in check. But like I said, priority 1, probably priority 2 with Jacob Wilson. You just buy the hit tool against the good pitcher, hope he gets on base, sets the table a few times. We're not looking for the double dong. 5 home runs on the board, 2 stolen bases is a little bit of power showing for sure, but that's not really who he is. He's this ludicrously low strikeout, low walk, high frequency of bat on ball, but not extreme barrels or anything kind of a hitter. But 363, 389, 513 so far, a 324 xWOBA, creating runs 58% better than average. Your top priority at 4,000, 3,000, or your second highest priority at those prices, rather. And then, like I said, it's an argument between Soderstrom, who has been okay while scuffling for power, Langoliers, who's never really all that reliable, but a big, big power bat as a cheap catcher at 3,900, just against a bad pitcher to take power against, or Lawrence Butler, the lefty, who has been scuffling somewhat, but up to 6 home runs and 6 steals, has a lot of quality in that bat, and is making good contact from the left side when he does. I would probably 3-man it with one of those 3 guys being my third man. There is an argument to be made for Miguel Andujar being in that conversation, given the hit tool that's been on display. 318, 347, 442, playing himself into a regular role with this team. Has been very, very interesting. 309 xWOBA, 123 WRC plus, hit his third home run last night. Highly capable bat. Low strikeout, medium walk rate, so a lot of frequency of contact. It's just what's the quality of contact going to look like for a hitter like that against a pitcher like this? I come down on Yamamoto's side more. Blade, Luis Urias, and Kurtz down lineup, all very playable parts. Kurtz up to 11.4% barrels all of a sudden after not having any. That shows how few batted ball events are truly in that sample over 64 plate appearances. I think that was 3% going into yesterday and had been 0 going into the weekend before that. But now the batted ball events all of a sudden look dynamite. He's got a home run on the board. He's carrying a 278 xWOBA and a 123 ISO, so still some work to do there. But the kid's a very, very high-end prospect. Wouldn't rule out him going on an absolute tear for home run upside now that he's found the taste for it. Urias, not against this pitcher. Against others, we're mixing him in for some cheap home run upside. We've talked about it a bunch of times, and all of a sudden he's up to 6 home runs already. 212 ISO. So it's becoming less and less sneaky to do it, but 2,800, 2,400 at second base, still viable against most pitchers. Used it yesterday against Landon Knack, less appealing today against Yamamoto. Dodgers bats against Hoglund. So Hoglund pitching to a 22.7% strikeout rate and a phenomenal 22.7, 2.3% walk rate. That's a great strikeout to walk ratio for the young pitcher. 2.38 ERA and a 2.99 xFIP in his 2 starts. Missing bats. Throwing strikes, 12.2% swinging, 31.7% CSW. It's allowed a little bit of premium contact on a fly ball trajectory, 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo on average, but limiting barrels, limiting hard hits so far. Given up in the 2 starts, that is 1 home run. 5 1/3 against the Mariners, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and a walk. 6 innings against the Marlins, 6 hits, 1 earned run on a solo homer, 7 strikeouts, no walks. I will point out that the Los Angeles Dodgers, a lot better, I would think most people would agree, than the Miami Marlins or the Seattle Mariners. A lot of threat here. Don't think it's the day to roll an $8,000 share of Gunnar Hoglund. 77 on FanDuel. It's pretty difficult to see. A lot of other cheap pitchers at similar projections with better upside. I do think the kid is good. We'll use him in other spots for sure if he remains cheap. If he succeeds against the Dodgers today, he probably gets expensive in already. But I don't think this is the day you want him for DFS. Dodgers bats against, given the 5.39 slate leading implied total, given the fact that they rank, 3rd on the board, they're just expensive. First ranked Vegas team, 3rd by projections. Value is obviously difficult. Just 11th by home runs, given Hoglund's success so far. That success in the minors, it was around a 1+% home run per 9 over the last couple seasons in the minors. He had that at 0.91 so far this year in a home run per 9 sense. Mid to upper 20 strikeouts, appreciably low walk rates through the career in the minors. So again, kid is good, but just super challenged by this team. Ohtani 10+ in the home run model. Everybody else below that, but we know there's more power than that in the real sense. Like Freddie Freeman at 4.80. He's hit 9 this year. He's got a 348 ISO, monster barrel and hard hit numbers. Will Smith, same deal. Monster barrels, hard hits. Mookie's a little bit light in the barrels in the hard hits department so far. That's something to watch, as we've called out already. 267, 345, 427. Not quite on par with what we expect from Mookie, but not bad. And still very low strikeout, high enough walk. Excellent options still to fill out shares. He's under 4,000 on FanDuel at second base, 56 on DraftKings as a shortstop. There's more of an argument against some other guys at that level of price and at shortstop. At 39 on FanDuel, there's a ton of appeal putting him in the outfield or at second base. Freddie is not mispriced at 62.44. He's spectacular and a complete return to the absolute pinnacle of being Freddie Freeman. Max Muncy underperforming his talent, just 1 home run. We're still hunting for that power, that return to form for the power. 8.4% barrels is down, but the hard hits is kind of where they're supposed to be. Walks down a little bit, but not that much. Strikeouts up a little bit, couple few points. That's where some of the quality's gone. 190, 313, 286. I'm still betting on the upside. It is a little difficult to see, but at least the xWOB at 318 is not tragic. It's around the average. So we should see him normalize to above Mendoza. We should see him push that on base a little bit. Find more walks. Hit for a little bit more power. even with just 8.4% and 44.6 over here, there should be more home runs on the board. So there's a little bad luck, a little misfortune going on with Max Muncy. Andy Pajas is cashing in. 6 home runs, 278, 333, 458. Creating runs 24% better than average. Get him while he's cheap. I think he's been good. I could see easily him being several $100 more expensive on DraftKings. FanDuel's got him in kind of that territory at 3,200. Very playable piece against a young righty. Conforto at just 3,000, given the barrels, the hard hits that are available with him. Another lefty, another guy who's struggling, just 2 home runs on the board, just a 115 ISO at 316 XWOB. But a lot of what I said about Max Muncy is also true of Michael Conforto. We know there's a better player than this. Striking out too much, drawing his walks, or this isn't bad against one another, but the strikeouts are up. The walks are up as well. But typically he's 24, 22% kind of strikeouts, better average, better on base skills. I do see a return to form in the cards for Conforto as well. Even if we're just buying him for some cheap power upside from the left side, I think he's in play, and he helps average down the price of the top 3 in the Dodgers lineup. Hee-Sung Kim, pretty good over 23 plate appearances so far, 304, 304, 304. That's unique. 0 ISO. That's a unique oddity of baseball, having the exact same number in all 3 spots of the slash line. And a 33.3% hard hit rate to boot. He's a playable piece for a cheap price. Helps you average things down in this lineup. James Outman is very appealing if he's in the lineup. Just that lefty bat at the dead min. I know he hasn't been good at all. 1 home run on the board, 0.67, 0.067, 176, 267. Just 4 home runs and was pretty bad in a lost season last year. But I'll remind you, in 2023, over 567 plate appearances, 23 home runs, 16 stolen bases, created runs 18% better than average, had a 188 ISO. We were expecting that season from him with an uptick last year. Barreled the ball 11.1% of the time that year, was sub 40% hard hits, and struck out 31% of the time, but walked at a 12% clip. So far this season, in the tiny sample, he's striking out at nearly a 60% rate over 17 plate appearances. I'm not saying he's on form. I'm not saying he's anything like the James Outman from 2 years ago right now, but that guy's in there somewhere, and they only priced him at $2,000 today against a rookie pitcher from the right side as a big lefty bat. I would play some James Outman if I'm stacking Dodgers. If he's in the lineup in the last spot here, even in a wraparound sense, given the walks, given the on-base skills that should be there, dead min, 65, 56 suddenly becomes 47 apiece for Ohtani and Betts. I'll throw Freddie into that fire. 5,000 apiece, 51. And then let's go with the faith play in Max. We'll skip the high price catcher just to keep that average down. 47.20, so essentially 4,800 apiece. But you're getting Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, even Max Muncy. If you wanted to go with the catcher, you could do it. Still under 5,000. So top 4 plus James Outman, if this is the lineup. Outman, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and Will Smith, 49.80. So call it 5,000 apiece. That's not a bad way to bring some pricing down to attack Gunnar Hoglund with the highest projected team. Obviously, everybody who rosters Dodgers is going to include a couple of these guys, but you differentiate immediately by being able to get them all together, by being able to average that price down. Not everybody's going to build it that way. People will shorten it. People will grab just one of these 3 stars, not all 3. And they'll go, all right, I couldn't afford Ohtani, but I got 2 Freddie. Let's say even if they grab 2, they're not getting all 3 in the most commonly built Dodger stacks. But let's say they go like, all right, I'm going to grab Freddie, Will Smith, Andy Pajas, Michael Conforto, and then take the cheap guy in James Outman. They're spending just $4,000 a piece for them. There's power in that too. Don't get me wrong. But that will be the more commonly built. Or like just this straight line will be the more commonly built. Not a lot. I doubt many people do that and dip down to James Outman. That straight line 3 through 7 is 42.60 a piece. Again, it averages down very, very quickly. But the most common builds will not have all 3 of those guys in them. Just comes together in interesting ways. On FanDuel, there's less power of that. For one, you get Outman at 25. So even if you went for the 4, you're still at 38.50, which is an aggressively high FanDuel price. I get that, 5,000 isn't particularly cheap, on DraftKings, and the ability to get these guys at 39 apiece is still appealing on FanDuel, but it just has less impact overall. And it's just a somewhat higher relative price. You can obviously use some of these guys in the middle to help bring that down, but then you're not getting all three of these guys. So that same thinking does apply, that your most common Dodgers build on FanDuel will not include all three of those unless it's a straight 3-man. And then in that case, they're probably putting it together with like the Rockies, the Marlins, and the cheapo value teams. Well, maybe Dodgers Rangers fits. I'm not sure. There's playability in the Dodgers, even at these super, super high prices, given where they are, given who they are, given the pitcher that they're going against. Yoshi Yamamoto, Dodgers bats in second. A's bats, and then Hogman. Wouldn't really throw Hogman here. I don't think it's his day. And that's it. That's your show. Get out of here. What are you still doing here? Appreciate all you guys. Oh, did the A's lineup come out? No O'Neal Cruz is a big benefit for Clay Holmes. That I love that Clay Holmes spot. Monty saying Jacob Wilson preseason was plus 1,600 to win the Rookie of the Year. He's now odds-on favorite across most books. Wow. Big uptick. I didn't realize he was plus 1,600. I would have been, not that I bet all that much, and I don't really bet futures like that, but I would have at least talked about how that was really interesting, just given that kid's hit tool. I don't expect, as I said, the power to continue, but I could easily see him hitting 300 all season long, getting on base like crazy, creating a lot of runs. That's a really interesting spot. Hopefully you book that ticket money. The A's lineup came out in the interim there. Wilson, Soderstrom, Rooker, Langoliers, Butler, Andujar. It's exactly what we had. Everything we said about the A's still holds up. This is your pitching board. Again, I would really say it's these two as far as guys that I consider to be very good in very good spots and would happily pay these prices for. I have no issue paying those prices for Yamamoto. I think Holmes, you could argue, could be a little bit higher priced against Pittsburgh with no O'Neal Cruz, but obviously they can't do it that dynamically. Lodolo, I have a lot less faith in, but he's facing the White Sox, so it's obviously a great spot, and at 8,700, it works really, really well on DraftKings. Chris Bassett, I don't have a ton of faith in. I think there's enough talent there, but I also think there's talent in that Rays lineup. He needs to find his strikeout stuff, and he's very highly priced on both sides. No faith. But he's facing the Marlins, so there's an uptick there. 8,500, good price on DraftKings. 9,000, a little rough on FanDuel. Dodgers lineup just dropped. I'll take a look at it in a second. Pepio, more faith in Pepio than Lodolo, Bassett, or Taillon, just in a vacuum. But he's facing the lowest strikeout team amongst those four, and probably the best lineup amongst those four. But he's also the cheapest. I would say there's an argument to be made that Pepio might be more playable than any one of those three, considering what the ownership on Lodolo is probably going to look like. We're talking about maybe sneaking a few Miami shares in there to target Taillon because he's like 40% owned on DraftKings. Maybe it leads us to some Pepio shares, but there's a notable tier there. Whoops. Right? This is like when you're walking down into the ocean and then all of a sudden the bottom drops out from under you and you go, it's a 5-point gap between Taillon and Pepio. Mitchell Parker, super low strikeout, not that good going up against a good Braves lineup with a lot of homers that have been underperforming. Prefer the Braves side, but Parker's notably cheap on DraftKings. Patrick Corbin, no faith even against the Rockies, but playable, projects out the same as these guys. Michael Lorenzen, fine, but higher price than everybody else in this mix, and projects out as the lowest point against the best team in that group. There's challenges for everybody outside of these top two. So cue the monster day for Oakland against Yamamoto and the Pirates blowing up Clay Holmes, and then like Randy Vasquez pitching a perfect game. That's the kind of slate it's going to look like. But really, after Lorenzen or after Elder, let's say, like I said at the beginning of the show, there's another gap. There's another shelf there, and it really, really falls apart. The only interesting option down here, in my opinion, is Ryan Weathers for 4 and change innings for 5,700 and hope for the best with strikeouts, but he's doing it up against a terrible target for that. So even him, I don't really like. I don't think this rookie is all that playable at 7. You've got at least a few cheap options here. There's a lot of low faith in anybody in this group, though. Lodolo, I shouldn't really include in that. In the faith conversation, he is included, but matchups based, he's not. Even against the Marlins, Tyon should be in that conversation. Chris Bassett probably deserves to be held above it as well, but at price, I think he's part of that conversation. It is an ugly pitching slate. I'll round it off with the same thought that I started it with. This pitching slate is as bad as yesterday's was good. Target some bats. One last time, when in doubt, take the home team. Every single home team is at a higher projected total or a higher implied total than the highest implied total on the road, which is the Royals. 4-1-2 is the higher, 4-1-3 is the highest, 4-4-6 is the lowest among the home teams. Obviously, you'll see some of these road teams succeed, but all the quality is on the side of the home teams. We'll take a quick look at that Dodgers lineup. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Pajes, Conforto, Outman hitting 8th, Kim hitting 9th. Doesn't really impact our ability to wrap Outman around. Same guys we talked about. All that upside still exists. It's just he's hitting here and he's hitting there. I wonder if that makes people notice Outman a little bit more for those mid-lineup stacks. It might, but again, I think the power of Outman, the power of some of those cheap Dodgers bats is just in the ability to start booking shares with all three of those guys included. That's going to be the way you differentiate your Dodgers builds. Anyway, gang, let me punch out of here. We're after 6 o'clock already. We've been talking for a long, long time about this slate. Only thing left to do now is to go play it. Let's build some lineups. I'll get the projections uploaded on the site. We've got basically all the lineups in at this point. Give me 5 minutes. That'll be up on the website. The website is rotoscouts.com. So is the Twitter handle is @rotoscouts. Subscribe, follow, give some love in, likes, tweets, thumbs ups, comments, etc., etc. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something, share those results when you do, and we'll see you for more tomorrow. Later, gang.